Have you ever had one of those days when nothing goes right? Your wife starts bitching about whatever it was she was bitching about last night. So you escape into the bathroom just to sit there on your throne. But after you finish your business, the toilet paper's gone. Well, it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. It's a bad day, so you better get off my back. You might get cold cocked if you cross my path. 'Cause it's a great day for me to whoop somebody's ass. Well, I was running late for work.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Ministry of Truth. I am your number one host on the show because, well, nobody else wants to work here because apparently it's anti-Semitic to work here. But, I don't believe it. Okay, maybe I believe it. But before we do anything, we're going to go to a couple news stories that happened within the past 24 to 48 hours. This one was a big one because it involved the president of El Salvador, which is, the country where that guy was illegally deported. No, he wasn't illegally deported. He was just deported to the wrong country. However, we didn't send him back to his country of origin, and his president says we have no right to bring him back because he's not American. And why would he bring a terrorist? Why would he smuggle a terrorist back in the United States? And then they ask, well, why can't he be released in El Salvador? Because, as the president says, he doesn't want terrorists on his streets. Went from one of the most biggest murder capitals of the world to one of the safest in the world.
So I knew him as a very young man. Now he's just a young man. And he's done a fantastic job. Mr. President, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
You're doing incredibly for your country. And we appreciate working with you because you want to stop crime, and so do we. And it's very, very effective. And I want to just say hello to the people of El Salvador and say they have one hell of a president.
Oh,
I mean that, and I know him well.
That's cute.
I know him as a very young man, Marco. Even younger than you. He started pretty young.
He'll always be younger.
Little Marco.
Young at heart. But I want to thank you for the great job you're doing. I appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Well, it's an honor to be here in the Oval Office with the President and leader of the free world. We're very happy, and we're very eager to help. We know that.
All I gotta say, at least he showed up semi-formal, business cash.
A crime problem, a terrorism problem that you need help with. And we're a small country, but if we can help, we will do it. And we actually turned the murder capital of the world, that was the journalists call it, right? Murder capital of the world, into the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. And, sometimes they say that we imprisoned thousands. I like to say that we actually liberated millions. So,
It's very good. Who gave him that line? Do you think I can use that?
I think you gave it to him.
And in fact, Mr. President, you have 350 million people to liberate.
That's a lot.
350 million people, you have to imprison some.
Wait a minute. Is he trying to liberate America?
The way it works, right? You cannot just free the criminals and think crime's going to go down magically. You have to imprison them so you can liberate 350 million Americans.
I like it.
Asking for the end of crime and the end of terrorism. I mean, it can be done. I mean, you're doing it already. And I'm sure that people have seen the change in the streets.
Yo, this dude speaks good English too.
Because you're just initiating your second term, but it's clear that with the numbers at the border, when even in Democrat-run cities, they get a help from the work you're doing. So I'm really happy to be here, honored, and eager to help.
Well, we had a terrible thing happen. We had an administration that allowed people to come in freely into our country from not only South America, but from all over the world, many from the Congo in Africa, Asia.
To get away from slavery.
All over the world, Europe, rough parts of Europe. And they came from prisons, and they came from mental institutions, and they came from gangs, and the gangs of Venezuela and other places. And hundreds of thousands and even millions of them came. 21 million people altogether, but many of the people that came, just a tremendous percentage of them were criminals, in some cases violent criminals. We had 11,088 known murderers. Half of them murdered more than one person. This was allowed by a man who, what he did to our country is just unbelievable. So we're straightening it out. We're getting them out. But what they did and what that
Where's that
party did
at,
to our
Twomper?
country, open
Not here.
borders. Anybody could come.
Well,
in. As soon as I heard that, I said,
not
every
every
prison's gonna
state.
be emptied out into our
What's
country.
up, Frogger?
That's what happened. And we're straightening it out. And we just had numbers. We had the highest recruiting numbers in the history of our country going into police departments. And a year ago, we had the lowest numbers. You couldn't hire a
biggest
police.
change. Yeah.
Nobody's
From
ever
the
seen
lowest
it.
to the highest.
And the military now, Marines, the Army, Air Force, Coast Guard, every slot is, I mean, we have the best numbers we've ever had. We call it recruitment.
Yeah,
recruitment
that's
numbers.
actually true.
And we've never had anything like it. We had records on at every single level.
Yeah.
But very important, the policemen.
Yeah, they do ask. But no, I don't. At that moment, I didn't. Does that count?
The policemen are joining forces now that we're having a hard time with policemen because we weren't protecting our police.
Yeah.
And we cherish our police. The police are great, and the firemen and everybody else. But we have the highest numbers that we've ever had, the most enthusiasm. Great enthusiasm. And on trade and other things, we're doing great. We're taking in billions and billions of dollars. We made 2 weeks ago, I gave them a little bit of a pause because, you have to show a little flexibility. But we go back to what we have to do. The markets have been very strong once they got used to it. But we were losing $2 billion a day. There's no company big like this. This is the biggest they'll ever made. Now we're making $3 billion a day. We're a great country, but we had stupid people running this country, and I can say it. What they've done to us at the border should never and can never be forgotten. It's a sin, what they did, and you are helping us out, and we appreciate it.
Thanks. Actually, what you're doing with the border is remarkable. It has dropped, 95%?
99.
It's incredible.
That, as of this morning, 99%, 99.1% to be exact.
Why are those numbers not in the media?
Well, they get out with the fake news, like CNN.
I wonder why.
CNN over here doesn't want to put them out
Up,
because they
Zippity.
don't like putting out good numbers. They only like putting out because I think they hate our country actually.
Yeah, that's a very,
But it's a shame. You're
Oh,
right.
you
Isn't
know
that a
what,
great question?
Twomper?
Why
I've
isn't
actually
the
heard
media-
that. I think it's more for. There's some states that don't require a medical marijuana card. And I think that's kind of like the difference. Because if you have one, they can track it. If you don't have one, then obviously they can't track it. I buy my shit from a dispensary, but they don't use dispensary cards.
Why don't they put out numbers?
yeah, 99%. I mean, it's crazy, right?
We're doing
It's
great.
a crazy turnaround.
Christy, could you maybe say a couple of words about the border, how we're doing?
It's just been absolutely phenomenal what a great leader can do. Clear direction, our laws matter. We should only have people in our country that love us, and the Border Patrol and our ICE officers and law enforcement officers have done fantastic work.
I mean, they don't have to love
We're
us.
proud of
They
them.
have to
Now we just need to get
obey the law.
criminals and murderers and rapists and dangerous gang members and terrorist organizations out of our country. So, Mr. President Bukele, we thank you very much for your partnership. It has been wonderful.
Colorado's going to come up later on in this show, not this segment, but this show I got for you, Twomper.
For us to be able to have somewhere to send the worst of the worst and someone to partner with. And we'd like to continue that partnership because it's been a powerful message of consequences. Mr. President, you wanted people to know that there was consequences if you break our laws and harm our people and endanger families. And this is a clear consequence for the worst of the worst, that we have somewhere to put them.
Thank you very much.
No, thank
we
you.
even had this gang member from Venezuela, one of the ones you sent, and we interviewed him just to get some information, etc. from them. And he said, "Oh well, I got arrested 6 times, but they released me the 6th time, so I should be released again." And then we said, "Well, what's the last thing you do?" And he said, "Well, I shot a cop in the leg, but I didn't kill him. I just shot him in the leg."
Oh, okay. No big deal.
This guy was arrested 6 times here in the United States. 6 times. He was released 6 times, and in the he was released 5 times, and the last time he was sent to El Salvador.
Which is strange because I would have expected Colorado. This is like 10, 15 years ago before I knew any better. I would have expected Colorado to be very pro 2A. Hey, what's up, Yeti?
So he's not getting released, but the last time he shot a cop, actually, and he shot him in the leg. So these are, like you said, there's something broken.
It's the liberal establishment, but they're not running things anymore in this country, and we're run by, and I don't say conservative, I don't say anything, we're run by people with great common sense.
Yeah, common sense.
Because it's all common sense, it's not liberal conservative.
Common sense isn't so common. We know that.
Like, do you allow men to play in women's
What up,
sports?
Rockstar?
Do you allow men to box your women and box? Because I know you have a lot of boxing.
That's violence.
That's abuse.
Actually,
of a woman.
Rockstar?
It's abuse of a woman.
I also believe I have Pennsylvania in this. Yep, I do. Pennsylvania will be coming up
They
next.
fight to the death because they think men should be able to play in women's sports. And some of those sports, it wouldn't matter much, but it still matters. But some of them are very dangerous for women.
Some years ago, I said a decade ago or so, women rights movements were pressuring so that we enacted specific laws to avoid men abusing women. And I think those laws were great because there were a lot of men abusing women. But now some of the same people are trying to backtrack on that and actually trying to make new laws allowing men to abuse women in sports. So actually, that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense.
It's crazy. They have
Well-
weightlifting records, right?
And in all realness, Hawaii is a super fucking liberal state.
A woman gets up and sways. She's incredible. A guy gets up and beats her by 100 pounds. What are you going to do? A record that hadn't been broken in 18 years. They put on an ounce, quarter of an ounce, eighth of an ounce for 18 years. Now they have a guy come up, ping. The whole thing is crazy. But they continue to fight. And I don't like talking about it because I want to save it for just before the next election. I said, my people,
It's a state
don't
by
even
state,
talk
I
about
believe.
it because they'll change. And but I watched this morning. There was a congressman fighting to the death for men to play against women in sports. And you say to yourself, why? What are they doing, right? What are they doing? But your country's not too big in that.
No, of course not. We're big in protecting women.
Because
Oh,
Yes.
cancel El Salvador.
important form of protection, too.
And as you can see, most of my cabinet are women, so.
That's impressive.
That is
yeah,
impressive.
That's why you're
And they're
running.
not DEI hires or anything. They're just great at what they do. Right?
That's right. This is
Y'all heard that, right? Y'all heard that. He made it specifically clear that. God damn it.
They're not DEI hires or anything. They're women, so.
that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's why you're
And they're
running.
not DEI hires.
I love it.
They're just great at what
Based.
they do. Right?
That's right. This is very impressive.
Yeah,
This
no.
is a first.
Can we see them?
We've had women, but we've never had 3 of them right here.
Oh shit, he really did.
Three
And
men.
look at what we have. You guys feel
They look
a little bit
so
mistreated?
nervous.
That's good. I like it. We've been advanced. I've been very advanced in that regard too. We have Pam, who's been so fantastic.
You know, if
Christy,
anything
Christy.
about this current administration, August 20th be roughly 90 to 100 days in. How many world leaders has come to Washington to meet with President Trump or the United States in general? How many times has President Trump left the country to go visit these other world leaders? Something to think about.
And the most powerful woman they see
I
anywhere in the
know,
world.
exactly.
She's rated.
They're all afraid of
Susie Wells, they say, oh, she's tough. Most powerful woman in the world, according to me. What do I know?
Yes.
But I think she probably is.
Yeah.
You know, she probably is.
Congratulations.
And you know, Stephen has done such a great job. Thank you, sir. We have great people.
Very famous too.
But we love working with him. He really lets them have it. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no games.
No, it's very good.
He knows.
I'm Steve Ducey.
All right. So I don't know why it wasn't in that. He's not going to let old dude come back because, well, first of all, the guy that illegally deported is from El Salvador. He was deported back to El Salvador after 2 courts determined that he was a member of MS-13 and had to be deported in 2019. He had his fair share, his day in court. He did. So, we weren't supposed to deport him to El Salvador. I don't really give a shit. Deport him. Deport him to where he will face punishment. Unlike here in the U.S. So, I don't care. I don't care. What are we switching to? All right, this is in Pennsylvania. This is kind of fucked up. I get it. It's a liberal who's probably anti-Semitic. However, I may not like Jews, but don't attack their families at home, right? Fucked up. And we'll see. And I don't know if it's this one, but there's another one that has a weird twist to it too. I don't think I put it on yet.
This kind of violence is becoming far too common in our society.
I didn't.
And I don't give a damn if it's coming from one particular side or the other. Directed at one particular party or another, or one particular person or another. It is not okay.
Shocking developments out of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania this morning.
Look at that
Accused
shit.
Arsonist targeting the official residence of Governor Josh Shapiro while the governor and his family were inside sleeping.
Look, and
Images show the damage from a Molotov.
of all things they're going to show a picture of, they show a picture of a burned Torah. Why? Of all the things in his house that were burned, you specifically zoom in on a copy of a burned Torah.
Cocktail thrown into several rooms of the home. The attack forcing the governor, his wife, and their 4 children and a visiting guest to flee for their lives. Governor Shapiro hosting Passover in one of those rooms Saturday that was later set on fire. Court documents say the suspect, 38-year-old Cody Balmer, scaled a fence in the middle of the night and planned to beat Governor Shapiro with a hammer if he found him. Balmer then turning himself into police.
Now think about this. He was going to attack Shapiro with a hammer. What other political figure-ish was attacked by a hammer by a liberal or his gay lover? Right, Nancy Pelosi's husband.
The police. He faces charges for attempted murder, aggravated arson, and terrorism, and he'll be arraigned later today. News Nation's Rich McHugh joining us now with the latest. What a scary series.
So he was arraigned, and I guess this jackass thought it was cool to basically stick his tongue out at everybody. Like it was no big deal. Like, I did it. Like that Luigi Manicotti guy.
Events. What more do we know about the details and what's happening at the mansion now?
Hi, good morning, Marnie. Well, if you can see behind me, this is the governor's mansion. It's 28,000 square feet. It doesn't really look like there's much damage, but the damage is actually extensive, and we'll show you some pictures in a second. Cody Balmer, 30.
Why does it look like it used to be a church?
Later today, he's in Dauphin County Prison. We have this photo from an auto repair shop that he worked with, and his mugshot.
Look at that nose.
Just released apparently he confessed, and when asked what he planned to do to the governor, he said he was going to beat him with a hammer. He's accused of breaking into the governor's home at 2 a.m., throwing Molotov cocktails and starting that fire. Fortunately, Governor Shapiro and his family, none of them were injured.
There it is, the
After
tour
the governor
again.
posted this photo from the same room celebrating Passover, he described the arson as a targeted attack, though this guy's motive remains unclear.
If he was trying to terrorize our family, our friends,
No shit. I didn't realize that, Zippity.
the Jewish
He
community
does.
who joined us for a Passover Seder in that room last night, hear me on this. We celebrated our faith last night proudly, and in a few hours we will celebrate our second Seder of Passover
See?
again.
I was thinking
proudly.
that. Like, that nose was way, way Jew nose. Like, if you ever look up the picture of a Jew nose in the dictionary, that would most likely be the one they show you. What's up, Juniper?
No one will deter me or my family or any Pennsylvanian from celebrating their faith openly and proudly.
Only a
In the
fascist
photos
would do
from
that.
Inside, you can see remnants of the Passover dinner the governor hosted. And many are now asking, how is this possible that this even happened with all the security detail around? Here is Lieutenant Colonel George Bivens, the state police.
So this individual came over a fence and right behind where all
So
of you are standing
walls
right
don't work?
now. He actively evaded troopers who were here to secure the residence, even while they were searching for him on the property. While they were searching is when he attacked at the residence, broke in, and set the fires.
Balmer was inside the governor's residence for less than 1 minute. They said he was methodical, had a clear plan, couple Molotov cocktails. They charged the 38-year-old suspect with attempted murder, aggravated arson, burglary, reckless endangerment, terrorism, aggravated assault, loitering, and
He's going to be
felony.
treated like a
Balmer
martyr.
has previous run-ins with the law. A 2023
Not by the
charge
law.
for assault. He was due in court on that issue in a matter of days. 2016 forgery and theft by deception charges. Now, we're told that authorities had this manhunt for him yesterday, but he got a call from this person's girlfriend. He actually turned himself in to authorities and described the incident in detail. Now he's awaiting arraignment sometime today at Dauphin County Prison.
All right.
All right, I'm going to follow up on that because this was yesterday. He got arraigned yesterday, but there was much more important shit that I wanted to look at. Now, this next story is from Aurora, Colorado. I know I said Colorado's coming up next in the story or two. And this one is a little disturbing considering this guy's occupation. Bro, that's a big-ass nose.
Aurora police say they have arrested a retired airline pilot who is suspected of having sexually relationships with minors across the country. Police say 68-year-old Ralph Edward Bledsoe was arrested as part of an online child predator operation. Officers arrested him at an Aurora hotel for what he thought was a planned sexual encounter with a minor. Police say he flew to Colorado from Canada for the encounter. Investigators learned that Bledsoe may have had sexual relationships with minors in the past in Denver, Pennsylvania, Phoenix. Bledsoe was booked into the Aurora Detention Center on internet sexual exploitation of a child and attempted child sexual assault charges. Aurora police also arrested another man, 39-year-old Gregory Thomas Daniels, as part of this operation.
Crazy, Colorado. And it's Aurora to make it even worse. All right. So, where the fuck is Bucks County? Shit. I don't know this state. All right. So, that was from one incident in well, he's a pilot, and that's why I said there's no telling how many children that he may or may not have assaulted. And I'm willing to bet he has plenty of material to allude to what he was doing.
Is everybody ready? Okay.
Yes,
morning,
I actually
everyone.
heard about that. I had to look because at first I was like, wait a second. All I saw was the bikers against, and I thought it was BAP. And I was like, no fucking way. So I actually had to go and read that article even closer. Saudi Aurora? I could see that.
Bucks County District Attorney Jennifer Shorn. I'm here to report that 3 men have been arrested for inflicting child sexual abuse crimes against a 13-year-old female child from the Central Bucks area. Zachary Lee McCauley of Louisville, Kentucky, who's 29 years of age, was arrested, as was 67-year-old John Thomas Van Ingen and 42-year-old Randy Francis Quinn. As you may recall, in February of this year, we appealed to the public, using your help, the media, to get word out because we made an arrest of a child sexual predator, Mark Wills, who resided in Bucks County. And we needed the public's help in trying to identify some of the unidentified victims that that evidence showed were victimized by this individual. We also appealed to the parents to get the word out to their children to make sure they keep an open dialogue as to the dangers of online predators, as well as to check their children's devices. And one mother did just that.
Can't preach that enough.
She had concerns for her daughter's well-being, and her concerns were confirmed when she saw suspicious activity. As a result, she reported her concerns to my office, and thanks to this amazing team of county detectives standing behind me, they opened an investigation. And they identified a perpetrator from Kentucky who was sexually exploiting this 13-year-old child.
I love you.
Not only was he sexually exploiting her, but he was manufacturing child sexual abuse materials, and he was trafficking her to other men.
Oh, I hope he
This
gets the
man
death penalty.
accessed this child through an online platform, Snapchat, and he did so portraying himself as a peer, a 17-year-old boy interested in dating this child. And he used grooming tactics to lower her inhibition, and then those tactics evolved into threatening to inflict harm upon her mother if she did not comply with his demands. And as a result, this 13-year-old child's identity, her picture, was posted on an application that is a dating application, Grindr, where then she was trafficked to other men for their own deviant sexual purposes. As a result, multiple men responded to the post that this trafficker, McCauley, posted of this victim, and they pursued this child and engaged in statutory sexual intercourse with this child. One individual did so repeatedly, and he also live streamed his victimization of this child to the trafficker, McCauley, creating child pornography. I praise the mother in this case because her instincts were correct. Although it was not related to the original case, she obviously did exactly what we asked her to do. And I praise the victim in this case.
Yes, that may be true with federal law, but some federal laws are open to interpretation and they are left to the states. I believe it's the 18th Amendment. I could be wrong.
The victim is only 13 years of age, and she is so strong, and she is not to be blamed for what occurred. But these cases cannot succeed without the amazing team of county detectives and the other detectives throughout Bucks
it's
County
not the
who make
18th
up our
Amendment.
Internet
My
Crimes
bad.
Against Children Task Force.
Maybe it's the 19th.
They use the resources and their expertise to battle these crimes every single day. 40 years ago, the mantra to raise awareness for child sexual abuse was stranger danger. And we know that was not accurate. Yes, on occasion, there was a stranger perpetrating crimes upon children, but more often than not, these individuals would gain access to children by grooming them, getting close to them, and then slowly but surely victimizing those children. They were typically known offenders. But now in this digital age and with the social media platforms that are available for these predators, we now face such dangerous times because it's a combination of both. We have strangers accessing our children, complete and utter strangers to the parents and caregivers, and however, those children befriend these individuals and invite them into their very home and oftentimes their very own bedrooms. And then these crimes unfold. We could not succeed without the amazing people that battle these crimes day in and day out. These individuals are facing serious crimes. As it relates to Macaulay, he is currently incarcerated in the state of Kentucky, and he's awaiting extradition. As it relates to Van Ingen and as it relates to Quinn, they will be prosecuted forthwith. They're presently out on bail based on what a judge determined was appropriate for bail. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Do you believe there's other victims at this point? If they were to access a 13-year-old here in Bucks County, do you believe there could be other victims locally or across the country?
This case exemplifies just how long the reach is of a child sexual predator using these social media platforms. I can assure you that currently this investigation is still very much active, and if there are additional victims, we will make sure that this individual is prosecuted for those crimes.
Was the girl going to their home, or were they able to get to her house, if they didn't say?
Based on the way this victim was trafficked, arrangements were made for this child to be picked up, and if that's not,
Hey, Carmen.
I don't know what is, and to be taken to various.
You're only about
locations in
30
Bucks
minutes late,
County
Carmen. You're good.
For these other two predators to engage in sexual intercourse with this 13-year-old.
Jen, do you know if Mr. Macaulay was being paid by these individuals?
Again, the investigation is still pending as it relates to that, but we do know that, in fact, as a result of the one live stream, two different live stream
You say live stream?
that were captured by Macaulay, that whether he's paid in a traditional sense or he's using that as currency online with other predators, time will tell. The investigation is still pending as it relates to that. But obviously, you know, there is really, it's unthinkable what he was doing. And to understand that those images and those videos are out there and very, very difficult for us to ever take down from the internet.
Does he have any previous criminal history in Kentucky of this nature?
As you know, I'm not able to comment as to prior criminal history, but I do know that
Why not?
obviously this was not an isolated incident. This was repeated acts of victimization of this child.
Can you talk to us about working with authorities in Kentucky, and are you also working with federal partners?
We're working with the Kentucky authorities who have been tremendously helpful, the Office of the Attorney General in the state of Kentucky, and specifically, if I just forgive me for a minute, St. Matthews Police Department in Kentucky. At this juncture, it's the team of county detectives out of my office working with Kentucky authorities. We always work well with our federal partnership, and we determine who's best suited to quite frankly, get the maximum result in this case. And right now, based on the hands-on crimes that were perpetrated upon this child, we're confident that we're the best agency to prosecute these defendants.
I hope so.
Did they have any prior history, prior arrests, anything of that nature?
I'm not able to speak to that. But
Yes,
as
you are.
know, we have a 67-year-old man engaging in sexual intercourse with a 13-year-old child.
Yeah,
from
but I think what they're really trying to ask is this a pattern? Is this a pattern of conduct? That's what they're trying to figure out. Why can't you answer that?
Bucks County, and a 42-year-old man. There was actually a third man who met with this child, and when he met her in person, it was immediately apparent that she was a child and that he did not engage in the sexual encounter that he intended.
But he still
to
met.
engage in. So it speaks volumes for the evidence we have in this case, and we anticipate these allegations will be substantiated when the process unfolds.
So on this app, the 13-year-old was being portrayed as an 18-year-old?
So because the application that was used to traffic this child was Grindr, and it requires an identity of an individual being 18, this trafficker, Macaulay, instructed her as to how to create a fake account, and he had access to the credentials. So naturally, he advertises her as a 13-year-old, but she is a 13-year-old child by all accounts. So immediately apparent, obviously, at least to one man.
How long was this all going on for?
Throughout the month of October, several episodes throughout the month of October.
And when did the Kentucky man first contact her? How long was that contact been?
I believe, let me just confirm, it was several weeks, but I would like to just confirm that fact.
Did they say what app that she found this guy on? Snapchat. Wait a second, Snapchat? How do you fucking find people on Snapchat just randomly?
September was the first contact, and for weeks was grooming, and then ultimately culminating in these sexual offenses.
Can you give us a full timeline? It started in October, but how long did it go on?
Started in September was the communication, several weeks of grooming, and then went throughout the month of October. And those details will become more specific in time.
Jen, is there any sense of how the two connected? I mean, you have somebody in Kentucky talking to a teen in Bucks County. Is there any sense, was it through, I know Snapchat's a social media platform, was it a chat room about a specific topic that he just randomly messaged multiple people? How did that?
He befriended her through Snap, portraying himself as a 17-year-old boy, Jake, who she thought was interested in her. And that's unfortunately a theme we see time and time again. And you know, these forums, it allows for these type of predators to really do so with anonymity, and it's quite frightening as a result.
And just for clarity, the mom reached out after this Mark Wills presser in February?
Yes, she feared, given the information, and again, I praise the media because we can't do it without you. She feared her daughter may be a victim because he was a local predator. He was a Bucks County man. And so in doing so, she contacted Detective Kelsey Pitts. And I apologize, I also failed to mention who's behind me, and I'll do that at the conclusion. She contacted Detective Kelsey Pitts from my office, fearing that her child may be a victim of this man. And due to the extraordinary work that Detective Pitts and Detective Eric Landamia, and as you know, Chief Greg Beidler from the county detectives, due to their outstanding work, they were able to quickly determine that she was in fact a victim, just not of Mark Wills.
What raised the mother's suspicions? Was it the appearance of other people picking her up and dropping her off? Why?
No.
She said social
no.
media.
In
She
fact,
checked her phone.
No, that's what's really scary in this case. It was not that, and that's how, sophisticated these crimes can be. It's some of the things we encourage parents to be aware of. Children taking their phone into their bedrooms and communicating with people who are unknown. So that initially was the suspicious behavior that the mom noted, and then subsequently taking her daughter's cell phone and then providing it to law enforcement. And again, I can't praise the mother enough, and I can't praise this child victim enough. She is not to be blamed. These predators are so good at what they do.
It's funny when all you hear, especially back in 2, 3, 4 years ago, one of the main things that catchers, well, even like the community, always harping, check your kids' devices. Always check your kids' devices. I mean, there's one that says check your grandparents' devices, but why the fuck would I check my... Hey, Grandpa, let me see your phone. Well, actually, that would be kind of weird if I checked my grandparents' devices, because they're fucking dead.
At grooming these child victims and making them think they're doing this in the name of love and or fear that their loved ones would be harmed.
And can you just share with us one more time, for anybody watching, this time around, what do you have to say to parents that might feel something's off?
I do this every time myself. Every time a case like this presents, I go home and have the dialogue, or my husband does with our own children, to make sure that they are aware of the online dangers, and you have to look at their devices. I understand there's a level of privacy you give your children, but you cannot be vigilant
Not if it's my
enough
phone.
as it relates to the dangers that are online. You see it.
I tell that shit to my kids all the time. Dad, can I have my phone? You have a phone? Oh, can I borrow your phone? That's more like it. I pay for the phone, I pay for the plan, and at that point, they're just borrowing my phone until they pay for it. Which, once it's paid off, I give them the phones anyway.
After week, we're coming to you, appealing to you for help, because that's how frequent. And again, it's not because there's a disproportionate number of sex offenders in Bucks County. It's because the amazing team I have working out of my office and in the municipal police departments to combat these crimes. So that's the message, and thank you for asking it.
The third man, is he facing any charges? Is he cooperating with the investigation?
He cooperated with the investigation and at present is not facing any charges because, as you know, our information thus far confirmed what he said, that there was no subsequent physical relationship with his child.
He went to meet the child. What more do you need? He went to meet the child.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, thank you for your time.
I guess they just totally forgot.
You're looking at a 17.
What a fucking clown. Alright, I think this is the kid. Alright, this little faggot killed his parents, right? And then I'm guessing he was trying to use the money to fund an assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Give me a second, I'm going to log into the Daily Caller. Come on. This encryption shit takes forever. Sometimes. There we go. Oh, I'm not paying for that. Oh, I've already seen that documentary for free. Anyway, sorry, my bad. Let's get to this story.
17-year-old accused of killing his mom and stepdad for one of the wildest and dumbest reasons you will ever hear.
The teenager was not in school for 2 weeks at Waukesha West High School before a school resource officer and his grandmother requested a welfare check at the family home. It's there police found his mother, Tatiana Kasap, and his stepdad, Donald Mayer, dead with dried blood surrounding the scene.
The 17-year-old is accused of murdering his mother and stepfather inside their Waukesha home back in February and stealing their car and leaving with the family dog.
Police pinged Kasap's phone in Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, and Colorado. On Saturday, police in Waukene, Kansas, pulled him over at a traffic stop where Kasap was arrested and evidence was found. This grandmother is struggling with the possibility of what may have happened.
It's very difficult to accept that Nicky killed his mother and father. It's just... It doesn't make any sense.
It'll make even less sense when you hear the reason for these alleged murders.
Here you go, Yeti.
Found a handgun, pried open safe, jewelry, and $14,000 cash inside the vehicle, as well as documents on his phone calling for the assassination of the President of the United States in order to foment a political revolution. Officials go on to claim Kasap killed his parents as part of an effort to obtain the financial means and autonomy necessary to carry out his plan.
Investigators discovered the teen's self-described manifesto that included making bombs, terrorist attacks, and plans for the assassination of President Donald Trump. He wrote, "By getting rid of the president, that is guaranteed to bring in some chaos. Not only that..."
I want y'all to just keep this in the back of your mind. We know more about Shapiro's attacker. We know more about this kid in 24 hours than we still know about the Trump assassination people or anybody on the Jeffrey Epstein list. Pam, cash, release it.
That it will further bring into the public the idea that assassinations and accelerating the collapse are possible.
Investigators writing Kasap in messages with someone said he planned to use a drone in the attack that would drop a bomb with nuts, bolts, needles, and then flee to Ukraine. The affidavit stating Kasap...
Right there. The kid's gonna flee to Ukraine. The kid's name sounds a little Arabic. Now, why would he flee to Ukraine if Ukraine is basically run by a Jew? Right? Scott Jensen got a fucking promotion?
Kasap had paid for, at least in part, a drone and explosives and was communicating with...
Well, CNN's fucked unless he stays on as a contributor still.
...someone with a Ukrainian number. It did not say where or when he allegedly planned to target the president.
Authorities found material linking the teen to the Order of the Nine Angels,
there you go,
a
Yeti.
network of neo-Nazis which advocates for violence and the destruction of modern civilizations.
The FBI describes the group as a satanic cult whose goal it is to incite chaos and...
So you mean to tell me a group of neo-Nazis were targeting Donald Trump? You know, Hitler. Oh, Jensen. I thought he said Jennings. My bad, bro.
And violence.
Police found a camera memory card that showed about a week after the murder.
I did hear about
Kasap
Mr. Jan's
was lighting
pics.
candles in
That's
the
confusing.
office where his stepdad's body was sitting and recording the dead body. Police say at one point Kasap stood next to his stepdad's body with his phone out as if taking pictures, all while videoing himself with another camera. So Kasap then says, "So you can see him there. I can literally see the expletive rotting body."
Let's assume, even if you're a non-believer, that Satan and his minions are real and influence human activity. Wouldn't the targeting of Donald Trump prove that he is on the side of good? The forces of evil must be getting pretty desperate if this is what they muster up. But if a demon's ultimate goal is human suffering and chaos, the objective was still met here with 2 people dead.
You think he's going to try and pull the insanity shit? I feel like he's going to try and pull it. I wonder if he's doing this for a reason. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. What's up, fuck your feelings? Alright, so this is going to be a quick 10-minute video. Shit, not 10-minute video. This is the stuff that you won't see on the mainstream media. This is coming from TikTok influencers. You know I hate influencers. But when they're coming from China, it could be propaganda, it couldn't be, but hey, I gotta show all sources, right? Ah, fucker.
China trade war has kicked off. Just look at these containers piling up on the docks. These are all waiting to be exported. This footage was taken on April 11th by a Douyin user in Zhejiang at a local port. It's not just Zhejiang. In recent days, major export hubs along China's coast, including Guangdong, Shanghai, and even Hong Kong, have seen freight operations come to a near standstill. Ports in these areas are now filled with containers waiting to be shipped. The 145% tariff imposed by the United States on Chinese goods has officially taken effect, triggering severe disruption across China's export supply chain. According to Chinese financial outlet Caixin, at Shanghai's Yangshan and Waigaoqiao ports, many shipments bound for the U.S. were rushed onto vessels in a race to depart before the tariffs were enforced. But after the U.S. announced a 125% tariff, Shanghai's once busy export activity came to a sudden stop within days. By April 10th, almost no cargo ships bound for the U.S. could be seen. Reports say many cargo ships and freight flights between China and the U.S. have been canceled. Containers that missed the shipping deadline are now stuck at dockside storage yards, and many exporters are filing customs return paperwork. It is estimated that about half the shipping capacity on U.S.-China routes will be canceled in the near future. According to Radio Free Asia, Mr. Qian, an exporter from Guangdong, currently on a business trip in Shanghai, said in an April 11th interview that Yantian Port in Guangdong is seeing the same.
China already says they're not going to raise their tariffs above what it's at right now. So either we're going to stick at the 148 or we're going to bump it up to maybe 170, 175. But their economy is already suffering. Because when you hit straight at the source at the beginning and all these orders just got canceled, they lost a lot of money. The businesses didn't because they got their money back in the United States. These guys don't get their money back.
Same situation as Shanghai. Containers are stacked high and very few cargo ships are leaving. A Costco shipping worker stationed at Yangshan Port.
No, it's not at 175. I mean, that's how I would push it. One last upgrade just to nail it into the coffin.
On U.S.-China routes have already been canceled. Ships that are not fully loaded, where charters would normally pay for unused capacity, are no longer sailing. 3 vessels are being combined into 2, and eventually into 1, even if it ends up without cargo. A manager at a large freight forwarding company added that most exporters shipping to the U.S. have now suspended their operations and are waiting to see how the situation unfolds. Fellow freight forwarders, we can't survive anymore. They've raised the tariffs by another 50%. The U.S.-Canada route is totally crashing. Clients are pulling their shipments by the truckload. How am I supposed to live? The trade war's bullets are hitting me hard. Some people might ask, why is Canada even involved in these U.S. tariffs? Why is the U.S.-Canada route treated as one line? After the goods reach the U.S., they go by bonded truck to Canada, or once they get to Canada, they go by bonded truck to the U.S., or they transferred by train.
Oh, so you mean to tell me this is going to affect Canada as well? Interesting.
They used to be like inseparable sisters, but now they've broken up. He raises tariffs on him, and he raises tariffs on him. Now I have nothing to eat. Of course, it's not just me. I bet some of you watching my video won't have food either. These times are tough. Hang in there, friends. Better days will come. Once we get through this, I'll be one of the survivors of the 2025 US-China trade war. With 145% tariffs, and I still managed to steal.
Y'all heard that, guys. Everybody in the United States is now a veteran. You're a veteran of the 2025 trade wars. Holy shit. Congratulations. Jeff, you're a veteran.
Steal 20 containers. Who says only those standing in the light are heroes? Those who survive will witness history. Ming Pao reports that individuals working in the sea freight consolidation business in both China and the US say that, after consulting within their industry, they found that as of April 10th, the booking volume for container ships departing from various ports in China to the US had dropped by more than half. They predict that due to the unpredictable nature of the tariff war, some goods may be rejected by buyers and returned after reaching the US. The air freight market is also facing significant damage. A freight forwarder from South China told Caixin that next week's air shipments to the US are also expected to drop by 90%, with major airlines cutting back on cargo flights. Due to the sudden high tariffs, exporters and their clients must renegotiate how to share costs, which has led to many goods being forced to stop shipping. High tariffs have not only caused port congestion, but have also placed foreign trade factories in an unprecedented crisis. According to Caixin and other media, since the U.S. tariffs took effect, export factories in Zhejiang and Guangdong, two major freight trade provinces, have almost stopped production, and warehouses are filled with goods that were originally meant to be exported.
The business owners in Shaoxing are breaking down.
Help me out here, guys. Is the... What the fuck is that thing called? That Nintendo thing, is that from China? Or what's the deal? Because I heard it got pushed back. I'm a PlayStation guy, so I wouldn't know.
These 145% tariffs. Did Trump even use a calculator to come up with that? You buy goods worth $100, but first you have to pay $145 in tariffs to US Customs. Mr. Wong from the textile factory had $200,000 in costs for a shipment of polyester fabric that used to make a profit of $50,000 selling to the US. But now with the new tariffs, he's losing $40,000. Well, that's with anything, Frogger. Mr. Wong was...
And you want to hear something funny? A lot of times, the knockoff brand that they sell in like New York City also come from China.
Crying in front of his warehouse, and now no one even wants the cloth, not even for dish rags. Many other owners have also had their cash flow cut off, and orders are being cancelled. What should we do now?
Similar reports are coming in from across China. A user from Jiangsu commented, "My family does foreign trade, and most of our orders are from the US. Yesterday, we got a call from the client asking us to pause."
Dude, what are you talking about?
Another
Dominic's
user
not here.
From Guangdong commented, "Clients exporting to the US have almost all canceled their orders.
How the fuck did I miss
and
your
they're
name?
not even keeping the deposits." An employee from a foreign trade factory in Zhejiang commented and said, "Our company's exports are mainly to the US. Now the clients asked us to our have almost all."
So why us as the US consumer? Why are we paying them money when we should be paying our own people money? And you know who did that? Bush. I believe it was Bush. Free trade. Actually, it wasn't fucking free trade. All our jobs and shit moved overseas to Asia where it's cheaper. And you can actually still figure that shit out when you call customer service and your customer service says, "Hello, this is Josh. I am here to help you." Yeah, okay, Josh. I have an issue. Hold on. What is your name? I have a question. I don't know what my name has to do with this. Well, I need to know your name, mister. All right, you can call me Joe. Okay, Joe. Who's Joe? You're Joe. I'm not Joe. You just told me to call you Joe. Listen, motherfucker, go get somebody that speaks English. I do speak English. Oh, all right. Relax. Relax, Curry. What do you mean by curry? You guys eat curry. Anyway, now I forgot why I called. God damn it.
All canceled the orders, and they're not even keeping the deposits. An employee from a foreign trade factory in Zhejiang commented and said, "Our company's exports are
yes.
mainly to the U.S."
I did forget about that. Yeah, he actually interviewed a guy that was talking about that same thing because he was in the system. They make them for almost nothing, and they sell them at a 3,000% profit.
Now the clients urgently asked us to stop. As for the goods still on the
Like, Stephen A?
sea, if they're cleared by May 27, we'll still face a 54% tariff. We can't verify the accuracy of this grace period, but it shows how desperate these struggles foreign trade businesses are for any possible relief. A business owner running an automotive parts processing factory in Guangdong expresses helplessness in a video. Once the tariffs went up, the factory turned into a retirement home. This time last year, the machines were deafening. Now, not even rats come around. 2 million yuan worth of goods are stacked up like mountains, and no one wants them, not even for free. The workers sit outside in the sun all day, and I'm paying their basic wages.
I'm kind of retarded, Carmen. I actually have no idea who that is.
Out of my own pocket. The bank is hounding me every day over the loan. If this keeps up for another 3 months, these machines will be worth nothing but scrap. The Americans raise tariffs without a second thought, but it's killing those of us in real industry. Does anyone have a way to clear out this?
They didn't seem to care when Americans were losing their jobs, and they got them. They didn't care then. Now that the fucking roles are reversed, it's suddenly a bad thing. That's why you're going to see Chinese flags in bios.
Out this inventory? I'll take scrap prices if I have to. A clothing factory owner is clearing out inventory due to excess stock.
Well, look at today's license plates, man. They don't even press them anymore. They're all printed on.
Does anyone want these white pants? If you don't mind, you can just take them. It's such a shame to throw away tens of thousands of them. The US is hitting us with heavy tariffs, and these goods are affected. Physical stores are closing down. All the big brands are shipping their genuine products with labels.
Tariffs are 100% needed. If it wasn't for tariffs, though, we would have actual free trade. And that's kind of what Trump is trying to do. Free trade market. And that's what libertarians wanted to do. Free trade. That's what Barack Obama wanted to do. Free trade. That's what Hillary Clinton wanted. Free trade. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer. But they don't want free trade when it comes to actually trying to get free trade. Tariffs are how you do that. And like I said before, I'd rather have a tariff war than an actual physical war. And by the way, now that we're talking about tariff war of 2025, congratulations again to everybody. You are now veterans of the United States trade war with the world. You can now head out to the VA and see if you can get some benefits. But don't hold your breath on that. You might have to wait 10 years.
There's only 3 days left, so I'm clearing everything out at a discount. If you've never bought before, now's the time to try a few.
What's up, Short Boss?
The US-China trade war has dealt a devastating blow to industries that depend on exports to the United States, especially in sectors such as textiles, apparel, electronics, and automotive products. Factories that previously manufactured goods for American brands have been hit hardest, with widespread order cancellations and even finished products
honestly,
left
Carmen,
without.
You're one of the few people I know that actually knows that. There's a very few people that know that tariffs can get rid of the income tax.
Buyers. Many factories have been forced to halt production or attempt to reduce inventory through
You're like the
domestic
third
sales,
person I've
but weak
actually
consumer
known that
demand
actually
at
knew that.
home
That's
has limited
crazy.
the impact, resulting in losses.
Well, that's why you're here.
Today is April 10th. U.S. tariffs have surged to a staggering 145%. Many friends running OEM factories for American brands told me all their U.S. orders were canceled. Even completed goods are being rejected, and shipments that already reached the port are being pulled back. Some shameless clients are even demanding their deposits back. When disaster hits, it's always the factories left holding the bag. No client is willing to shoulder the burden of these tariffs, and none of them care whether the factory has already paid for the materials. Clients may lose a small deposit, but the losses for factories go far beyond that. In Shantou, Guangdong, a toy and gift manufacturer said they have received no orders from the United States this year. In Shenzhen, David Feng, an Amazon seller, said he had no choice but to raise product prices by 30%, cut back on advertising, and shift resources to markets outside the U.S. Wang Xing, president of the Shenzhen Cross-Border E-Commerce Association, noted that the high tariffs have completely changed the cost structure. Longer customs clearance times and soaring logistics costs have made it
I will tell you
extremely
this.
difficult for Chinese sellers.
If this tariff war drops down to 0-0, the fucking Shein, Temu, all those fucking companies, they're gonna fucking fire sell and make back all their money quick as shit. Imagine, I'm gonna go on Temu. I can get $1,000 worth of stuff for $50 because they're giving shit away
to operate in the U.S. market. She warned that a wave of closures among small and medium-sized businesses could lead to a sharp increase in domestic unemployment. Under the weight of the trade war, public sentiment in China has become increasingly divided.
You can hate people that are dead. It's totally allowed. Even if they were before you were born. Completely allowed.
On the one hand, some people, influenced by CCP propaganda, are showing strong patriotic feelings. The owner of a down comforter factory on Hui shared in a video. We've stopped production. Not long ago, fans were asking if the U.S. tariff hike affects us. As you know, most of our business is with the U.S., making up 90% of our operations. As of yesterday, the U.S. tariffs went up to 145%, and the direct impact on us is that all of our export business to the U.S. has been halted, including OEM clients who've also told us to stop production. All of our goods at the ports have to be pulled back, and the losses are incalculable.
True, they're going to make money.
Perhaps influenced by the Chinese government's propaganda, he expressed his firm support for China's confrontation with the U.S., despite being a victim of the trade war. He said, "Is life hard? It's incredibly hard. But do we need to fight this battle? Absolutely. I still hear people say we don't need a rising power, just dignity for the common people. That's pure nonsense. Only when the country rises can the people truly have dignity. Without the backing of the nation, how could small businesses like ours stand tall and make money overseas? For big exporters, we're probably the first ones to fall in this war, but it's not sacrifice that's frightening. It's surrender. To put it bluntly, I'll go all in, even if it means losing everything." The video went viral on social media, sparking heated discussions among social media users outside of China.
Bro, yeah.
Having made money off American
12-year-olds. Shit, dude. That's crazy. And it's true, 100% true.
for so long, growing rich without a shred of gratitude, and then turning around to support the government that exploits them? It's unbelievable that these ungrateful people haven't bankrupt yet. Just stop selling goods to them, and that's the way to go all the way. Some people think that this is just using patriotism to sell products and become an influencer. On the one hand, pessimistic sentiments are also spreading. Mr. Hong, a user from Jiangsu, told Radio Free Asia, "The pessimism is really bad. Even elderly people in their 80s and young people are feeling it." Mr. Zhang from Qingdao, Shandong, said, "All industries are showing signs of decline."
I don't think that had anything to do with the
are the
terrorists.
hardest hit
This
by the
video is
tariff
done
war,
right here.
and both technology and the economy are stagnating.
Now, this could
He
be
worries that if developed
factory
countries
workers.
stop buying Chinese products, the consequences of an economic collapse will be unbearable. Another blogger wrote, 2025 will be tough, but I didn't expect it to be this hard. This feeling of helplessness is spreading among many in the foreign trade industry.
This trade war has really hit us in foreign trade, and it hurts. You might think that if foreign trade people are suffering, those who don't work in foreign trade will be fine, right? Let me give you a simple example. This morning, I was heading to Hong Kong for a trade show. Because the foreign trade situation is bad, I had to bring everything myself and take the high-speed train. You know, Shenzhen is very close to Hong Kong, so normally we would just take a cab.
Okay.
But doesn't that mean a cross-border taxi driver in Shenzhen has just lost a long trip from Nanshan to Hong Kong today? So this affects everyone. Our supplier list is so long. If the main client is struggling, do you think...
I mean, how much is the taxi as opposed to the speed train? And if it's like a 20-minute drive, is it like a 3-minute train ride?
They will be doing fine? Now, going back to foreign trade, if a company mostly deals with the US market, they probably won't survive this year because social security costs are rising too. When a company can't hold on, do you think the owner has it the worst? Every business owner leaves themselves an escape route. Their way out is to live off savings, rely on interest and passive income to get by. But what about the laid off workers? How long can they last without a job or salary? It's really iconic that those laid off workers might be the same people cheering in their social circles right now. Such a strong feeling of powerlessness, really.
High tariffs have also dealt a heavy blow to China's cross-border e-commerce sector. Wang Xin, president of the Shenzhen Cross-Border E-Commerce Association, described it as an
He's part of the World
unprecedented of the
Economic
Shenzhen
Forum.
cross-border e-commerce.
You don't wear that shit unless you're part of it. It's in our fucking White House and Congress.
Commerce Association described it as an unprecedented shock. She said the tariffs will fundamentally reshape the cost structure, with longer custom clearance times and rising logistics costs, making it extremely difficult for Chinese sellers to remain competitive in the United States. She warned that the pressure on small and medium-sized enterprises could lead to a sharp increase in unemployment.
Not
in
yet,
China.
Carmen, because
David
supply
Feng,
is
an
still...
Amazon seller based in Shenzhen,
I
said
think their supply is actually still pretty decent because they knew this shit was coming.
he has raised prices by 30%, reduced his product categories and advertising budget, and shifted his resources to markets outside the U.S. With exports hindered, many cross-border e-commerce sellers are looking to the domestic market. A business owner who has been in cross-border e-commerce for 8 years posted a video at 3 a.m. sharing her thoughts.
Hey guys, it's just past 3 a.m. I just finished dealing with a batch of stranded cross-border goods, and I suddenly felt like sharing something from the heart. You know, every time I see the word tariff, I feel a bit triggered now. I've been doing cross-border e-commerce for 8 years. Things like logistics delays, exchange rate roller coasters, and replying to emails at 3 a.m., I've been through it all. But I never expected that this year's tariffs would crush us. The increase in tariffs have really squeezed the survival space for small and medium businesses like ours. Tonight I was thinking, has the golden age of cross-border e-commerce passed? Should I start focusing on the domestic market? Actually, I've been preparing for that. I registered a new trademark and plan to continue in the beauty tools market. But since the era of wearing masks is over, domestic consumption is really low. Now I'm unsure whether restarting these projects will even make money.
All the clothing in Guangzhou is sitting unsold. We can't ship anything out. Many factories have too much raw material stockpiled. It's all because Trump started the trade war and the tariffs have been raised to over 100%. So we've
I don't
decided
vape, so I'm
all the
pretty
clothing
much...
businesses in Guangzhou
Now my
will shift
daughter, on
from
the other
export
hand...
to domestic sales. No matter the price, we just have to sell everything.
Oh.
The U.S.-China trade war has...
Speaking of my daughter, she closes on a house on Friday. Yeah, one less kid to worry about. I mean, whatever. You guys know what I mean.
Since it resumed on April 2nd. On April 10th, The Trump administration announced an increase in tariffs on Chinese goods to 145%. The next day, China responded by raising tariffs on U.S. goods to 125%. Xi Jinping stated that China is not afraid of an unjust suppression, while the Ministry of Foreign Affairs declared, if the U.S. insists on escalating, China will fight to the end. The State Council Tariff Commission was even more
Trying to
blunt.
get me to cleanse her house.
Even
I'm
if
like,
the
no,
U.S. continues to raise
do that shit
tariffs,
yourself.
American exports to China will find no market, and China will not respond. This stance was also reflected in statements from Chinese government officials involved in public diplomacy. On April 10, Victor Gao, vice president of the Center for China and Globalization, was interviewed by Channel 4 News' Kathy Newman. When asked about China losing the U.S. market, he said it didn't matter.
Yeah, and China will lose the US market, which, as I've said, is 15%.
We don't care. We don't care. China has been here for 5,000 years. Most of the time, there was.
You guys ever have to burp, but the burp is like, fuck you, I'm not coming out. And you're like, fuck, I really need to burp. So you try to make yourself burp again. It just makes it worse. And then you pretty much have to bend over, pull your chest out, and just force the burp out. And it's like a fucking long ass burp, and it feels so good. No? Well, fuck.
No United States, and we survived. And if the United States wants to bully China, we will deal with the situation without the United States. And we expect to survive for another 5,000 years.
The loss of 15% of its export market, i.e. what you export to the US.
Not at all. China is fully prepared to fight to the very end because the world is big enough that the United States is not the totality of the market in the world. So if the United States wants to go in that direction of completely shutting itself out of the China market, be my guest.
As a senior executive at a think tank controlled by the Chinese Communist Party.
You heard him. You heard him. Trump, that's a Chinese businessman. He said that we are not needed. We're not needed.
His careless response to questions about the escalating U.S.-China trade war and the potential loss of the U.S. market is both shocking and disappointing. His indifference not only fails to offer constructive solutions, but may also legitimize a confrontation approach that ignores the consequences. This attitude is inconsistent with his role at a think tank and risks leading to serious misjudgments by the leadership. Still, it is clear that he is acting as a mouthpiece for the CCP's external propaganda. Victor Gao's historical comparison, China has survived for 5,000 years without the U.S., is not only illogical, but also absurd. China's modern economy is deeply embedded in globalization and relies heavily on international trade, supply chains, and market networks. In 2025, China is no longer a self-sufficient agrarian society, but the world's second-largest economy, driven by export-led growth. Losing access to the U.S. market would mean the disappearance of hundreds of billions in trade, a breakdown in supply chains, and millions of jobs at risk. Reducing such a complex economic issue to a sweeping historical claim is not only an evasion of reality, but also a disregard for the businesses and citizens now struggling. More troubling is his declaration that China is prepared to fight to the end while offering no concrete measures. This empty slogan raises the question, who is it really?
Yeah, that dude is fucking crazy, because how do you think he made his money? It had to be on exports.
Officers.
Has Sam showed up yet? Has anybody seen Sam? Hey, Fin Fam, what's up, brother? Sorry, I didn't see you. Huh. I mean, they do have a lot of carriers, but I don't know if that'll be a good idea. Because they'd have to be pretty quick on planning that, Yeti.
Were dispatched in reference to an 18-year-old suspected child pred with a warrant. The arrest was based on probable cause, but his reaction told...
Yeah, when I was like, 18-year-old child pred, I'm like, wait a second. Yeah, you can be an 18-year-old child pred, especially if it's without outside the range of the Romeo and Juliet law. However, this dumb shit raped them. Her.
An entirely different story.
Oh, howdy. Is Caleb here? That's me. That's you?
You knew why they were there.
Can you step out and talk to us for a second? Yeah. Okay. What's up? All right. So go ahead and turn around and put your hands behind your back. Hold on. No. Please. Don't resist. Okay. Don't resist. Turn around. It's behind your back. Right now. You're under arrest for the second degree. What? No, hold on. Turn around. Stop resisting. Please. Get ahead back. No. Please. Stop resisting. Please. Just let me explain. I have no. Stop resisting. Understand me? Ow, please. Put your other hand behind your back. What's going on? Please, can we talk?
Bro, I'm gonna tell you right now, if they ever wanted to handcuff me, I'd be like, dude, okay. I have a really bad shoulder, so you can still handcuff me behind my back, but relax, okay? I'm not gonna resist. Alright? Thanks. And you're still rough handling me. Thanks a lot, ass. You might as well just fucking throw me to. Alright. Don't argue with the cops, guys.
Stop resisting! I'm not resisting, I'm just Hey, man. Please don't. Just let me. Hey, you're gonna get paid in about 5 seconds if you don't comply. Understand me? Okay. You're gonna get tased. Please, for the love of let me You're gonna talk. get tased. We can put your hands behind your back. Why am I being arrested? I didn't do anything, please. Corporal and County, subjects in custody, also resisted arrest. Please, can we talk about this? What the is wrong? I didn't do anything, please.
Listen, you need to chill out.
Do you have anything on you? I don't think so.
Okay.
No, there might be stuff in my pockets. I don't
Can
care.
you breathe?
Please, listen. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. Take a breath. Take a breath. Can you please explain what it was wrong? I swear I didn't do anything wrong. Corporal and County, we got him in custody. Okay. Can you please explain what I did?
Y'all knew you were gonna cuff him. Why did you just now put the gloves on?
The fright and confusion is not uncommon for someone who turned 18 just 7 months ago and is the prime suspect in a sexual assault investigation involving another minor child.
Can we please explain what's going on?
You've already been told you're under arrest for in the second degree.
Who?
We don't know that. We were
This
just
is out
told.
of Long Beach, city of Long Beach, okay? Okay. Chief Flint Wright is the one who has sent us over. He has probable cause for your arrest in the second degree, okay?
Okay.
We don't know any of the information other than we were to come here and arrest you.
You got a pair of shoes, something you throw on?
Inside, yes. Can we please wait for my mom to get back? I don't know when she is. I can try to call her. I don't want to do any of this without my mom not being here.
You're an adult.
Is there a dog or anything inside the house?
There is a dog, and she will bite, and my brother's also inside.
Okay, can your brother come get you a pair of shoes?
I don't know if he's asleep or not. I can see.
How old's your brother?
15.
Okay.
Is everything okay?
Yep, we're fine.
Okay, I just want to make sure. I know the kids and stuff.
All right.
Why don't you go ahead and...
That's how you know it's a white neighborhood. And you guys know what I'm talking about. That's how you know it's a white neighborhood.
Holler for your brother and see if he can get you a pair of shoes.
Okay, I'm gonna have to crack the door, so if she jumps, please don't do anything. Orion! Ow! I'm sorry, I'm just trying to twist my hand. You're good. You shouldn't have resisted like that. I didn't mean to. I'm scared. Orion! Get me my shoes. Don't let Chev out. Get me my shoes. Do you have any medications?
I'm scared and there's a cop gonna handcuff me. I'm gonna resist.
Do you take any
That sounds like a
medication?
really good idea.
I do, but I don't really take them.
Okay.
Just drop them on the ground. Orion. Is there like a number you can give me so Orion can call my mom when she gets? Yeah. Can you please lift the back of it? Do you have any medications or anything like that you take? Not on a
Quite a
daily,
bit.
and none that are like too bad if I don't take them. Okay.
They just said a
When's your
minor
mom supposed to be
child.
home?
They
I
didn't
don't
go
really
into
know.
it
I
on
don't.
it.
She was supposed to be giving
I
a friend
remember
of
right.
ours a ride home or something. Okay. Not really a friend, just someone that we've been talking to. I don't know his last name or stuff. All I know is his name. First name's Matt. Okay. So what we're gonna do right now, we're gonna walk down to our patrol cars. Okay. Okay. First, can you take these headphones off? Yep. Inside? Yeah, just crack the door as far as... Here, you want to take those?
Yeah.
Okay, he's going to jail right now, okay? He's under arrest right now for
Pretty sure they have
22nd
one.
degree, okay, out of Long Beach City, okay? So he's going to be booked in the Pacific County Jail tonight, okay?
Okay.
So I can come back and talk with you in a few if you have any more questions, okay?
Okay. Okay.
You want me to come back here and talk with you in a minute?
Alright.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll say this again. You can tell that's a white neighborhood. The lady said, "Is everything all right up there?" "Yeah, okay. Okay. I just know the kid." And then she went inside. I'm pretty sure there was a little bit of a noise outside people could hear. But you notice they're walking into the car with no issue.
Okay, I'll let you know here in a few.
Yeah, he did have a gaming headset.
Down here?
Mom wasn't home. His older brother was being taken to jail for an unforgivable crime. The night had turned into a nightmare very quickly for the 15-year-old.
Alright. I thought something really fucked up was going to happen. But even the 15-year-old was like, alright, okay. Thanks.
Alright, go ahead and climb on in there. Alright, I got something I gotta read to you, alright?
Miranda rights.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in the court of law. You have the right at this time to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions and make any statements. Do you understand each of these rights I've explained to you?
Yes, I do.
Having these rights in mind, do you wish to speak to us now?
I'd like to plead the fifth.
Greasy.
Alright, dude. So, what you just said is you want to plead the fourth. The Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution protects individuals from unreasonable search and seizures by the government, requiring that warrants be issued based on probable cause and specific details about the search. It is a key part of the Bill of Rights, ensuring the right to privacy and security in one's person and property. Alright. Plead the fourth all you want. Idiot.
What was that?
I don't really know what to do right now.
Okay, it's a yes or no. Do you want to keep talking to us or not?
Okay, it's not my mom or some kind of way. Oh, yeah.
You're 18.
I'm going to take this.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sit tight for me. Florida Port County, Miranda's been advised.
Do I just do one like we normally do and just don't put a court date on it since he's going to be seen by the judge at the right place?
Although the officers returned to speak with the younger brother, there wasn't much they could say to ease the situation for him.
Okay, I'll let him know if he needs you. You'll be down here. Yep. Hello. So first off, if you need anything, neighbor right there said she can help you. So
It is
here's the
2022.
deal. It was out of Long Beach City of Long Beach, down south. Okay, it's Chief Flint Wright. He has probable cause to arrest your brother for in the second degree. Okay, we don't know any of the circumstances. We don't know the case. We don't know anything. We were just told to come and arrest him and book him into jail on their PC. As for any details, I can't really give them to you, and I don't even know what they are exactly.
He hasn't said anything yet.
Okay.
Here.
So, when your mom gets here, just let him know kind of the same situation that he got arrested for the in the second degree, okay, and he's going to be up in Pacific County Jail. And he'll more than likely see a judge in the...
Oh. So second degree includes the victim of a sexual assault is younger than 13 years old. The victim is between 13 to 15 years old, but lives in that... Oh, that one's different. Under 13 years old. In
the morning.
All right.
All right. Got any other questions?
No.
Okay, yeah, just let your mom know, and then he's going to be up in the Pacific County Jail, okay?
All right.
All right? Try to have a better night.
I will. Have a great day.
You too.
He's over on the side. He's on the side.
Man, just hang tight for a second. Just an FYI, too, you're getting another charge of resisting arrest with us, okay? If that makes sense.
You guys are working hard tonight. Are we going to take a COVID test on you?
The 18-year-old was charged with rape of a child in second degree and resisting arrest. YouTube thinks you'll love the video on screen. Click to watch now.
All right. So that kid is going to get what he deserves. Hopefully. I don't have the update on that because I just, like I said, I come across these late at night or when I'm fucking playing some bullshit in the background. And by bullshit, I mean sometimes, you know, these drama panels. But I got a message sent to me yesterday, obviously from Sam Squatch. I asked him if I could play this video. And then at the video, I'm going to show you why I asked. Because he sent me the video link first. So without further ado, Sam, if you're here, your link is in the description. If you're not here, Sam's link is in the description. And I'm pretty sure I got blue check marks. Somebody can put it in there.
Here to talk to you about Heidi.
Yes, I've been talking to her, yes.
Dude, his face dropped instantly.
Just meeting up, that was it.
Just meeting up?
Yeah.
What else?
That was it.
You sure?
Yeah. She wanted to run away.
That's what I figured, Juniper.
I just said I just want to meet her.
You sure you didn't talk to her about running away?
No.
Okay. I just want to let you know that we've got everything saved.
Yeah.
I've got all the screenshots from your conversation with her. We ended up finding her phone.
Oh.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this dude, not only is he be a fucking chomo, wood chipper material, but I would fucking cut his legs off just for wearing socks and slippers. I don't give a fuck who you are. That's not what slippers are made for. If you want to wear socks, wear some shoes.
Doesn't look too good.
Okay.
So.
And I know some of you do it.
I've got everything. This is you, right?
Yeah.
That's you right here?
Yeah.
Dude, he might be 5'3". Holy shit. Actually, give me a second.
That's you?
Yeah. I shouldn't have did that. I know it.
So.
He's 5'10".
Want to have an honest conversation. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah.
You know?
I won't do it again.
Yeah, you will.
I mean, yeah, I can agree with you. But, you know, we got to clear up some lies. I want everything to be truthful.
Yeah.
You know, who brought up running away first?
She did.
You sure about that?
Positive.
Because you were talking about wanting to go to Mexico to marry her.
She was the one who brought up running away first.
No?
Yes, she did.
Okay. Do we need to go through the chat logs?
Not really, but she was the one who wanted to run away.
All right. Let's just go through it, I guess. Because I know that's...
Look! Even the cat... I don't know who the... I feel retarded. Anyway, look. I mean, granted, painted toenails, but no socks.
True. I'm the one that printed all these out and read everything. So here, you said you're 46. She said she's 30. She sent you a picture. You said she's very pretty. Could you hold that?
Yeah.
Sideways. Turn it. Yeah, there you go.
Hey Sam, if you're here, how old was the decoy?
She's single. So very pretty. Anything in this wrong?
No.
You sent her the song.
You're beautiful by Gina Boone. Yeah, she never listened to that song before. She'll listen to that genre of music.
And you're asking her for another pic.
Damn it.
Cutest note.
If I could have figured out that song, guess what? I would have played that for this show. That's how I do it. Sometimes I tie it in with the show. That's why I picked the song last.
Nose, you're so pretty. Your nose is perfect. You look kissable.
Okay.
Yes, he does sound retarded. However, he's a Pacific Islander, so that's pretty much how they talk. Although he's more Vietnamese with his
Still gonna
middle
stick
name.
with the story. She brought all of it up first.
Yeah.
I mean, even knowing I have.
Yeah. She brought up the wrong way stuff.
I don't think so.
I swear to God she did.
What about getting married?
She brought that up too.
Okay. You said here you'd love to see more of her. You wanted to take her to the, what buffet was that?
It's over here.
The Harvest Buffet?
Yes. They have good food.
What's that?
They have good food.
Oh, okay. I'll have to take your word on that. Right here she says, what is your deepest secret? This is the first time you got sexual.
Yeah, Hawaiians are really bad at it.
Whoa, I play with myself too much. What about you? And she said, like how? And you obviously thought that, she knew what you were talking about.
No.
She had no clue, right?
Yeah.
You said you get hard and rub it. That was
I'm assuming he's smoking weed.
What's gonna happen?
I just, just curious why you thought it was okay to talk to a 13-year-old girl and say you wanted to date her and say you wanted to marry her, because you were the first one to bring up marriage. You asked her if you could, if she would marry you.
Oh. Okay, well, whatever.
Whatever.
Well, I won't talk to her no more. I'll block her off my Facebook.
Well, I mean, I understand that, and you can do whatever you want to. But
Do you work for Facebook?
No, I don't work for Facebook.
Who do you work for?
I work for myself.
What do you do?
Catch motherfuckers like you.
Talk to kids.
Okay. Okay.
And you were perfectly fine with her being 13 years old.
Okay, I'm sorry. I won't do it again.
Really?
Yeah.
You know how many times I've heard that from people?
A lot, but I won't do it.
You're not
Part of the
wrong.
Chomo handbook.
I just don't know if I can believe you on that.
You can believe me on that in a heartbeat.
I mean, I can also believe that you were in a relationship with a 13-year-old.
I wasn't really in a relationship. We were just...
You asked her to get married. Go down to Mexico.
That wasn't me.
You asked her if she would ever hop a freight train with you.
Yeah. Or was this...
You told her that you guys were going to go to Mexico and go to your aunt or whatever.
Yeah. Okay, whatever, dude.
It's not whatever, Michael.
I won't do it again.
It's not whatever. It's not.
So why are you videoing this?
Just for safety. I don't want you to think that I'm going to beat you up. I'm a big guy. You say you're a black belt in kung fu.
Yeah.
So, I just don't want no
Everybody was kung fu fighting.
Fuck, it's getting cold. Could you grab my jacket?
Yeah, you want to pull out of it.
There, just
Okay, well, I'm done with this conversation.
Yeah? You sure?
Yeah.
Well, Michael, just to let you know, I mean, if we can't have an honest conversation, well, yeah, but you're walking.
I want to go on there.
So talking sexual to a 13-year-old, and now you just want to walk away.
I'm sorry about it.
You're not sorry,
Yes,
though,
I am.
Michael. No, you're not. You wanted to marry this little girl. You wanted to kidnap her and take her to fucking Mexico.
Okay, you can be quiet now.
I'm not going to be quiet. I'm on public property. Why did you say you wanted to take her to Mexico, Michael? All right. Well, I'll just have to figure out something else to do with this.
Can I end it on my phone?
No. Don't film her. She doesn't deserve to be on camera.
Yeah.
Well, the cop. He's going to call the cops right now. He doesn't want to be honest and have a conversation. We'll just call the cops. I don't mean to bring this to your door, man.
Bro, my calves are
We're
bigger than
sorry.
that.
You don't deserve this.
People don't need to be messing with our kids. What's up, Michael? Well,
in a waiting pattern.
We're waiting for the police.
Why?
Did he
because
piss
what you did
himself?
is very illegal.
Or is that just...
Am I going to jail?
I'm gonna
can't
say he
tell you
pissed
that.
himself.
I'm not a cop. I'm not affiliated with the police. I'm not a cop myself, so it's all up to them.
Take you down to the cop shop.
You know, you sent your two dick pics to a 13-year-old. You're gonna kidnap a 13-year-old. You were gonna go to Port Orchard and get a hotel with a 13-year-old. All very illegal. So,
But we don't
I mean,
know what they'll do.
if you want to sit out here with us, that's up to you and wait. But that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Keep your hands where I can see them, fool.
That makes no sense.
Why is this weather so bipolar?
Well, it's Washington State.
What's that?
There's the cop.
Yep, there he is right there.
Uh-oh. Michael? Stay outside.
You're recording?
Yep. All right, so remember to mute if need be. How's it going, guys? Good. So, this is Michael. You're not gonna try and meet up with a 13-year-old again?
No.
You're not gonna try and take her to Mexico?
No.
You're not gonna, say that you're gonna go have sex with her, send dick pics, none of that
What's
again?
going on? So,
So, all right.
Sorry, guys, I'm pulling an NTF. Just kidding. They're on. Oh.
I have all the phone calls recorded with a decoy. I've got
like a
everything
kid, too.
for you. I also just got a conviction in Kitsap County for the same thing.
okay. Are you familiar? Have you contacted the special investigation?
I haven't. No, I haven't worked with TPD yet. Kitsap County got him on Asa Irish.
Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Got him on communication with a minor for immoral purposes, misdemeanor. He's setting.
Oh, he's getting those fancy bracelets, guys. This is some cute bracelets you got there, buddy. What's this? Oh, that's my dick. Oh, my bad. Wait. Never mind. I thought he had bracelet.
From one of the detectives who's on
Bet you he
board.
does get bracelet though.
Yeah. So I try and not do them on the weekends just because of that. But I had to get him because he was going to go to board. You know, but I would like to build a relationship with you guys too. You know? Yeah. Because I am local.
So, in I'm looking up the RCWs. I mean, these things are pretty rare for us. Detectives usually are on doing the whole internet thing, and that's their job.
Yeah.
So I really come across these on the street at least.
Yeah.
And it's only a gross misdemeanor in Washington State. Isn't that insane?
His second offense is a Class C.
Second offense,
Yeah.
conviction.
Yeah.
Or if he has a prior felony conviction for sexual.
If they could make it
crimes.
stick that he was going to cross state lines, he's got Mann Act, and that's felony.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a stretch.
But for us being private citizens, no peace officer, not law enforcement, that's the only thing we can do.
And anything's better than nothing.
Well,
it still gets
it's
him on
pretty
the books.
sad. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
It really is. Because if the detective wants us to arrest him today or see stuff later and arrest him then, I'm not sure what he's going to do.
You guys got his phone number?
You can tell he's nervous as fuck right now.
We're working on it. We're figuring out how to do that the right way as far as taking everything at once.
I mean, dick pic and stuff like that should be good.
Do you know if he's been on a computer or is it all strictly phone?
I don't
You don't know?
I don't know. I just know that you guys can get preservation requests from Facebook.
Oh yeah. That's no problem.
Yeah.
We're just make sure we do this the right way.
Yep. I can't.
But it's just sad. It's a gross misdemeanor.
Yeah.
And bail, if we arrested him today, bail would be set today. And most misdemeanors are like $1,000 bail, so it's like $100.
My guy in Kitsap County that I got convicted didn't even go to a detective. It was literally just the sheriffs that dealt with it, and he pled guilty. He gets out August 15th, and he has to register.
I just feel bad he's gonna go alone for douchebag my son about that.
See that old white guy? Oh, the cops are here arresting somebody? I'm just gonna keep on walking. Didn't pull out a camera, didn't create a crowd. I bet you he's in a white neighborhood.
Here with this spot.
I'm only saying that because if the cops come around next door, I tend to go look out and be like, what the fuck are they doing over there? So I go outside and be like, sup? Especially if they're coming to my house. I guess you'd have to go talk to them, right?
Well, he's signing consent.
That's his best option. It's either that or he takes more of a legal route and then he has a higher chance of going to jail.
Oh no, that's so that they don't have to get search warrants.
Yeah, but him giving consent for the search, he's cooperating.
Yeah,
if he
that's
didn't,
good.
They would be
That's
more.
I noticed the spiderweb tattoos.
You didn't? I mentioned it earlier.
Wait, what? Spider tattoo?
The spider web on his elbow.
You might have been about 10 minutes after he started
Mhm.
talking.
Oh, is that what you were saying? Make it home.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Okay, I feel dumb.
Of course they would zoom in on that. Dum dee dum dee dum 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 dum. Wait. They're going back there to beat his ass. Never mind. Oh. Oh. Hello, computer. Hello, PlayStation. Hello, bracelets and laptop. Can they still be recording me? Yep, absolutely, my buddy. Here, let me unlock the door. Dude, you left your window open, so I don't know really why you had to lock the door. I bet you he's keystering some weed. I'm gonna guess he's left-handed. What's in there? It's gotta be the new guy.
Everything's current.
Now, why did I show that? This is why. Look at who's a registered sex offender. Oops, there's a lot of people on that. My bad. Yeah, he's a registered sex offender now. Convicted on 21 February 2025 for communication with minor for immoral purposes, and now he's a level 2 registered sex offender. Everybody? Good job, Sam. Good job. Everybody tell him good job. Now let's head to the next topic of discussion. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Oh, this is the fucking tariff video I was supposed to play. Ah! Give me a second, guys. I gotta switch this till tomorrow.
And this is when Donald Trump talked about no more funding.
Okay. So when I watched this originally, all I could think about was a certain veteran, a trade war veteran. We're all trade war veterans. And I had no idea that the 20th worst city in the world, it's 20. Whatever.
No more federal funding whatsoever to sanction. I want the hub. When you think of the most dangerous cities, for example, like which ones come to mind? Obviously, Detroit, probably Oakland, maybe St. Louis.
You mean here or globally?
Yeah, then you think like Tijuana.
Well, I mean, anything in South America,
Yeah.
I'd be like, it's probably a bad deal.
Exactly.
Central America.
What if I said Albuquerque?
That's
Kirky.
No.
K-Town. Captain Kirk.
It's a Q.
Yeah, I know. But it doesn't make a good name. Just say K-Town.
Walter White.
Captain Kirk. It's so crime-ridden that the New Mexico governor, and I believe the mayor too, we have someone on the mayor, I think, later, but the Democrat governor is now deploying the National Guard to try and fix the crime problem.
National Guard troops are getting ready to get to work right here in the metro after the governor, mayor, and Albuquerque's police chief agree more needs to be done to fight crime along the Central Avenue corridor.
A business owner along Central says while he's relieved to get some help, he just hopes it works in the long run. News 13's Madison Connor explains.
This is declaring again a public safety emergency in Albuquerque.
Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham announcing today she is deploying the National Guard.
How did it become that way, Governor?
But here in Albuquerque, along Central.
We picked those areas.
We now know who the mayor is, and we know who it is. Jeff? All right, buddy. Maybe you do know your mayor.
Based on call volumes, arrests, and risk.
The decision stems from an emergency request by Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina. At the end of March, Medina wrote this letter signing that the fentanyl epidemic and an increase in violent juvenile crime has the department running thin, and they need extra hands.
Now, this shouldn't come as any surprise. I mean, Albuquerque is a place where former champion John Jones, he stopped.
So now with all that crime making Albuquerque the 20th worst city in the world, right? You'd think all those peace officers would help.
Crap. That guy's got a baseball bat. I don't know if you...
Yeah, don't stop.
He's going a little league.
Super freaking shady.
Look at all the fire marks on the wall.
Oh my God. Holy crap.
Democrat, Democrat, Democrat.
Oh my God, somebody's got like a knife out. What the? I mean, if I saw the
that guy's grooving.
And then this guy is just out. You can kind of see behind me.
Yeah, I wouldn't sleep belly down.
No. He wants to.
They're like
that's a
actively
problem.
using drugs right in front of me.
Watch this.
Well, not in front of me, but they're just like literally like shooting up right now, all of them.
It's a team building exercise.
It's not.
And when they get into fights, they're in Albuquerque.
Sense of humor that I find funny. All right, Albuquerque. Jeff, get on your mayor. Get that shit cleaned up. All right, need to make that city safe, not only for kids but for everyday American citizens. Now, yeah, we're gonna talk about American companies again, and why history is a very, very important thing, right? Right. We're going to talk about two vehicle makers, because yesterday we talked about Coke. I think it was yesterday. We're going to switch a little bit, and then we're going to go to automakers. not called VW.
During World War II, many companies worked for the Third Reich and used slave labor, as it was cheap and the Nazi Party determined who worked where. American companies Ford and General Motors had extended their businesses all over the world into a dozen nations, and those businesses operated serving both the Allies and the Axis powers. What were American companies doing working with Hitler and his war machine? How deeply involved were Ford and General Motors in Germany's production of war materiel using slave labor? How did these companies operate producing war materiel to both the United States, its allies, and Nazi Germany? If German companies were punished after the war, what about Ford and General Motors?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, former soldier, Marine Corps scout sniper, history professor, historian, and book author.
I mean, there's a reason they became two major manufacturers.
Issues on this segment of Forgotten History.
It's the Second World War. Carmen.
This post-war punishment and financial penalties have been applied to all the major German companies such as Volkswagen, IG Farben, BASF, Krupp, BMW, Daimler-Benz, the aircraft manufacturers, Siemens, and Bosch, just to name a few.
Oh, Siemens.
All of them were
Totally unrelated. He did mention Siemens, and we did talk about Siemens CEO the other day. And 2 years ago, they signed a deal with Turkey so they wouldn't have to pay the Jews for a product. It's really weird. A lot of money went down, and they pretty much said, we're not dealing with Israel, we'll deal with Turkey. And that pissed off Israel.
We're on the financial hook.
My brain's a little scattered right now, so a lot of stuff's getting mixed in here.
Professor Willy Messerschmitt, Professor Ferdinand Porsche as examples, were all charged with war crimes for using slave labor. Not what they really had a choice in doing, but the American companies did. Both Ford and GM had established their companies in Germany and other nations, with GM buying Opel in 1931. After the war, both were
That was a
subsequently
GM
charged
company?
with aiding and abetting the Holocaust, in essence playing both sides of the war for profit. In Germany, General Motors and Ford were critical in building and maintaining Germany's war machine. Heinrich Himmler ensured that the Gestapo maintained security at all of the Ford and GM operations, as well as German companies, for maximum effectiveness and security. In July 1938, following the German annexation of Austria, Henry Ford accepted the Grand Cross of the German Eagle. This was the highest medal that Nazi Germany could bestow upon a foreigner, and Hitler admired Ford's anti-Semitic outlook and kept an autographed photo of Ford, which he prized. However, Ford was not alone in receiving accolades, as a month later, the senior executive for General Motors in Germany, James Mooney, also received a medal for his distinguished service to the Reich. The major portions of their profit was the use of slave labor by the Third Reich, primarily under Reich Armaments Minister Albert Speer, who was in charge of war production. Ironically, one of Henry Ford's stipulations for hiring workers were no Negroes or Jews. It is the height of irony that tens of thousands of Jews built Ford products for Hitler. GM's plants in Germany, along with the other firms, built thousands of jet propulsion systems and vehicle engines as well as trucks under their brand name Opel, started by Franz von Opel, which they owned under license. Ironically, during the war, GM's American plants simultaneously produced aircraft engines for the American aviation industry. Researcher Bradford Snell stated that, quote, General Motors was far more important to the Nazi war machine than Switzerland, as their banks profited from the deposits of stolen wealth. However, GM, like Ford, was a critical part of the German war effort, and of 350,000 trucks used by the German army as of 1942, one-third were made by Ford, the other third made by GM. In late January of 1942, the Dearborn headquarters was informed that Ford's operations in France had the highest production level of all other manufacturers and, as summed up by the U.S. Treasury report, that they were still relying upon the French government to preserve the interests of American stockholders. This was divulged during the war due to secret meetings held in Lisbon, Portugal, between Robert Schmidt and Ford executives. Ford's Cologne manufacturing center used slave laborers from 1941 and 1945, mostly from Eastern Europe and the Soviet Union, but also many forest workers from France and Italy. One large part of this collective Ford and GM operation were the concentration camps, primarily Auschwitz, the largest camp where arrivals were selected, either for labor, the gas chamber, or in some cases medical experiments.
Funny, because IBM was there.
But there was also another category, one necessary for the war effort. According to SS Lieutenant General Karl Wolff, quote, Rudolf Höss, the commandant of Auschwitz, had criteria for selection of prisoners. Those prisoners with any skills, such as metalworking, construction, any form of engineering, electricians, mechanics, medical training, anything that would aid the war effort, were to be sent for labor under Speer. End quote. The Auschwitz records fell into Soviet hands after they liberated the camp in January of 1945. These files are detailed and supposedly contain the names of 100,000 forced workers located in the Moscow archives. Ford did admit under oath that its German subsidiary, Ford-Werke AG, used slave labor in Cologne plant and was aware of it. Documents show that the parent companies followed a conscious strategy of continuing to do business with the Nazi regime rather than divest themselves of their German assets.
Weird. American companies, IBM, GM, Ford, investing in Germany and the war effort. And then what do we turn around and do? Operation Paperclip. And we bring a bunch of Germans over here, scientists, shit like that. Former Nazis, not just Germans, Nazis. We supported the war effort. Maybe not, government way, but the government knew. It's always known.
3 weeks after the Nazi occupation of Czechoslovakia in March 1939, General Motors chairman Alfred P. Sloan defended the strategy as sound business practice, given the fact that the company's German operations were, quote, highly profitable. The purpose for both companies not closing down was to protect their investments. Ford and GM decided not to shut down their German factories after the war had been declared, as they still expected their profits from manufacturing, claiming they had no right to close down. GM also had its issues as part of its operations with the development of synthetic fuels, which became even more critical as Germany's access to petroleum slowly crumbled. When the U.S. Army liberated the Ford plants in Cologne and Berlin, they discovered the slave laborers and began taking statements. A U.S. Army report dated September 5, 1945, accused the German branch of Ford of serving as an arsenal of Nazism, at least for military vehicles, with the consent of the parent company in Dearborn, Michigan. Incredibly, after the war, both GM and Ford demanded reparations from the U.S. government for wartime damages sustained by their German facilities as a result of Allied bombing. In 1967, the foreign claim...
So they were supporting the enemy, and they want money because the Americans destroyed their plants for supplying Nazis with vehicles and munitions. That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Settlement Commission of the U.S. Congress made a compensatory award, and Ford received a little less than $1 million, primarily as a result of damages sustained by its military truck factory at Cologne. Yet at no point during these proceedings was the use of the slave labor force even brought up. On March 4, 1998, a first-of-its-kind lawsuit was filed against Ford Motor Company and
Wait. You think they knew we had these plants, and both military or Allied forces, German forces, and Russian forces were probably all buying from plants in Europe at that time, because they did say one was in France. No, there was plenty in Germany. Huh.
Subsequently, General Motors also found themselves in trouble. After Switzerland's largest banks agreed in August of 1997 to make a $1.25 billion settlement to Holocaust survivors, which they had resisted for decades, a precedent was established. Holocaust survivors could be compensated for pain. A precedent was established.
Right there. This guy's a plant. That fucking WEF world, the global elites. That's the symbol you'll see a lot.
Holocaust survivors could be compensated for pain, suffering, and loss of material wealth and assets. The success of Nazi victims in obtaining financial reparations from Swiss banks, which had profited from Nazi wartime deposits, shook the financial world. Regarding Ford, the lawsuit claimed that Ford's German plant became an eager, aggressive, and successful bidder for forced laborers, and that senior Ford executives in Dearborn, Michigan were well aware of the fact. Ford's lawyers argued that the parent company lost control of German operations when the war broke out, and those assets were seized as enemy property, but Ford still took the money. Later, Ford corrected its initial claim that it did not profit in any way from forced labor, but only after documents surfaced that after the war, Ford received dividends from its German subsidiary worth approximately $60,000 for the years 1940 to 1943. Similar arguments applied to General Motors, which was paid $32 million by the U.S. government for damages sustained to its German plants, even though they made war material for Germany. The Treasury Department had investigated Ford in 1942 for possible illegal contracts and contacts with its subsidiary in occupied France, which produced German trucks.
I often said, like, if I could go back and invest in a car company when this war started, it 100% would have been Ford. Every vehicle that wasn't a military vehicle over there that we were using on internal transportation, or that we'd make up armored vehicles for and give them to the Iraqi police or the Afghan police or the Iraqi army, were all made by Ford. Ford F-150s, fucking Expeditions. I think that's the first time I saw one of the high not F-150s, but it was like I don't remember, 7 or 850. But bitch, I was like, I want to drive this. But yeah, Ford, there's a lot of Ford vehicles that we used over there and that we gave to the local militaries and police. That's why I would have invested in Ford. Now I would have stopped investing 10 years after the war started, because now they're shit and they're still going down.
Slave labor, along with GM. The investigation ended without charges being filed, possibly due to the heavy U.S. government influence.
Yeah, you can get Ford for like $950 right now.
War effort, along with General Motors. Ford even called the former U.S. Secretary of State Warren Christopher as a witness to testify that former administrations had upheld the concept that governments and not courts should decide war reparations.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been saying this. And their military grade aluminum, never buy anything military grade. Cheapest bidder, guys. Cheapest bidder.
Ford also argued that the statute of limitations on the victims' claims had expired without providing any legal precedent. But if that were so, how could Nazi war criminals still be hunted without any such expiration or legal restrictions? Making this point was New York University law professor Bert Newborn, who represented the slave laborers and their families, when he stated, quote, "Time can never shield a war criminal, either criminally or civilly," end quote. Famed Nazi hunter Simon Wiesenthal agreed and said, "The perpetrators of these crimes, whether extermination or slave labor, have no legal relief, and therefore cannot expect any compassionate forgiveness," end quote.
Well, they're Toyota, that's why.
According to Simon Reich, who compiled Ford's World War II documents, he totally disagreed with any comparison with General Motors. Reich stated, quote, "Ford decided to take a very public, open, and transparent route. Any serious researcher can go into the Henry Ford archive and see the documents in paper form and have them copied. Compare and contrast to this with the fact that General Motors conducted a very private study and had the original hard copy documentation upon which the study was made and has never been made available.
I wonder if that's the one in Germany.
Copied without General Motors' legal department's permission," end quote. Unlike General Motors, to their credit, Ford agreed to a $5 billion settlement and in 2001 added $2 million to compensate victims of slave labor. It also set aside $4 million for research on human rights and slave labor. So, the connections between American companies and the Third Reich is more transparent than most believed.
So if they paid that fucking fine, how come they were still making tons of money? 2001. Never mind. Just pretend I didn't fucking say that. I answered my question in my own fucking way. All right. So I've got 3 videos. This one really has nothing to do with anything we're talking to today. V8, yes, absolutely. Only with trucks. Typically, if it's a bigger truck, you definitely want a V8 or a Duramax. But this one I found interesting because, well, believe it or not, I could drive to this town in about 20 minutes. And now I kind of want to go see if I can find this farm. Well, I owned 2 trucks in my life. One was a 2012 Dodge Ram, and I traded that in for a 2012 Chevy Silverado 2500. And then I got a Jeep.
Hopkinsville, Kentucky. A bizarre encounter would take place at a secluded family farmhouse, miles away from any nearby residents. The event would entail 2 entire families becoming trapped and encircled by creatures from outer space. The standoff would last hours. Well into the early morning, it would leave behind visible evidence of something very strange having happened, as well as several battered and shaken witnesses. The events of the case are still the subject of debate today. So what happened that evening in the summer of 1955 in Kentucky? What type of creatures did the families witness? And what were the Kentucky Goblins? Let's try and find out.
Now keep in mind, Fort Campbell is
Marine Corps veteran
right
and
next
filmmaker, and we will try to answer these questions on today's episode of Forgotten History.
Oh, that's right. Because I got the 2012, the next year they had that new one, new Duramax.
Just after 8 p.m. on the 21st of August 1955, Elmer Lucky Sutton, a young man in his early 20s, was visiting his mom, Glennie Langford, and 3 younger half-siblings at the farmhouse he'd grown up in, 8 miles north of Hopkinsville. On break from his job with the traveling carnival, Lucky and his wife Vera and their friends Billy Ray and June Taylor were with him for the weekend.
Billy Ray?
His brother JC and sister-in-law Aileen, plus a family friend OP, were also there that night. Following a hearty supper prepared by Miss Glennie, the party of 11 had settled in for a card game, and this is when Billy Ray made an outlandish claim. While fetching water from a well a little distance away, Billy Ray noticed a strange light in the sky. It appeared to be on fire, with all the colors of the rainbow, as opposed to flame orange. He followed the craft, not daring to take his eyes away from it. It eventually vanished over the tree line and came to a stop in a clearing. This is when he rushed back to the house and told them what he had just witnessed. Thinking it was just another one of his tricks, they would, by and large, dismiss him and carry on chatting as they were. Then came the sudden and frantic barks of the family dog, the barking of the sort that meant something was outside and approaching. However, as soon as the dog was unleashed to investigate, he whimpered and crawled away underneath the house. The family wouldn't see him again till well into the next morning after the oncoming events.
Pussy.
Everyone in the house now edged to the windows to peer outside into the night. All the while the dog's whining and whimpers continued. Armed with a .22 caliber pistol and a shotgun, Lucky and Billy Ray stepped outside to gain a closer look. Lucky was first to notice a green, glowing object heading in their direction. The others saw it too upon his calls. As it edged closer, it was apparent that the glow came from a small humanoid figure. At the start of the encounter, the strange goblin-like figure remained at a distance. Then, as if it had suddenly realized it was under the 2 men's gaze, it He flung his arms into the air and surged towards the house. Both Taylor and Sutton raised their guns and opened fire. The bullets impacted the strange creature, but merely only flipped it over. Unhurt, the creature quickly retreated back into the shadows, allowing the two men to return to the house. It was then they saw another goblin creature staring at them from the side window of the house. They again opened fire on the menacing figure, and again, a direct hit only appeared to merely stun it.
That's not a shotgun.
Within seconds, it once again ran for cover, away from the property. It would become quickly apparent that more than one of the otherworldly goblins had taken an interest in them. Billy Ray, with Lucky covering him, went back to the door, ready to investigate again. As he stepped outside, a claw reached down from above. Sitting on the roof, one of the goblin creatures had his hair in his grasp. Lucky shot at the silver-clad glowing figure. He hit it, but the impact only sent the strange being floating down to the ground. The bullet made a metallic ping sound through the night air. Once on the ground, the creature quickly vanished again. As the two men prepared to re-enter the house, they both noticed multiple glows in the trees around them. They would soon be surrounded. Back in the house, the group tried to collect their thoughts amidst the racing questions. What are these things? Were they aliens or demons? Did their raised arms indicate innocent intent? If they didn't mean any harm to the home's occupants,
hands up, don't shoot.
why did they keep coming back after being shot? Bullets may not have scared off the intruders, but someone pointed out that the bright light seemed to hurt their large, yellow-pupiled eyes. Whenever a light came on the beings, they backed away. So they turned on every light in the house and waited. Outside, it was eerily silent. One of the children began to cry. Everyone made a break for the trucks, piling in as fast as they could. They screamed away from the farmhouse in the direction of Hopkinsville Police Station. At about 11 p.m., the two trucks arrived at the police station, blasting out of the night, filled with at least 5 adults and several children, all of whom were highly terrified.
Terrified.
We need your help, they told police. We've been fighting them for nearly 4 hours. Surprised by the peculiar details of the family's report, the police were equally struck by the genuine fear and shock apparent in their statement. Regardless of what they had witnessed, the family seemed convinced they were recounting the truth from their perspective. The police would later escort the two terrified families back to the farmhouse to investigate the scene for themselves. Perhaps telling of how seriously the police took the reports is their request to the nearby Fort Campbell for military assistance.
There it is.
Although one officer did make a report of what he thought to be a strange glowing in the woods, none of the mysterious menacing figures surfaced in front of the police. No flying saucer full of goblins, no evidence that anything had landed nearby. The police did make note of the extent of the damage to their property and the surrounding area, however.
Wait, oh, that's fucking, never mind.
Military units arrived shortly thereafter and conducted a sweep of the area. Shortly after 2 a.m., the Taylors and Suttons returned to the farmhouse. Unfortunately for the two families, so did the mysterious creatures.
Also, maybe,
with the police,
just maybe, Fort Campbell is being used as military experiment site, and that's what happened because the only reason I say that, there is a small cemetery on Fort Campbell that's kind of hidden, but it's known to be there, of 5 Nazi POWs. POWs.
And the military unit now having left, the two families again engaged with the mischievous creatures. By 5 a.m., just as the sun rose over the farmhouse, the goblins began their retreat, this time for good. A report would appear in the Kentucky New Era newspaper the next day. The once quiet and peaceful farmhouse was suddenly the desired location for UFO researchers and investigators.
That fucking newspaper cost 5 cents.
The scrutiny and interest became so intense the Suttons would eventually sell the farm. Theories emerged about the Suttons' claims. During subsequent investigations, the family members were questioned separately, each describing the evening's events and the creature's physical appearance, being 3 to 4 feet tall, with muscular upper bodies and atrophied legs, large glowing eyes, and pointy ears, all in a consistent manner. Different artists rendered similar sketches based on the individual descriptions, and yet Dr. J. Allen Hynek, an astronomer and UFO researcher, highly regarded for his work with the U.S. Air Force's Project Blue Book, called the Hopkinsville case preposterous and offensive to common sense, according to the 2008 book World of UFOs by Chris A. Rutkowski. Skeptics said that the family had mistaken great horned owls for the aliens. Kentucky moonshine was blamed, even though the authorities found none on the premises that day.
Yeah.
We all laugh at that because Glennie didn't allow alcohol or even cursing on her property, said Smithy, a nearby neighbor. They were a very quiet, trustworthy family. In 2005, Geraldine Sutton, Lucky's daughter, was invited to speak on a panel at an event commemorating the 50th anniversary of the sighting. What she found were dozens of people who were fascinated by the encounter but had the facts all wrong. The information had been so misconstrued over the decades that sources were misquoting the witnesses' names and claiming that there were 12 alien beings instead of the 3 or 4 her family had estimated.
You don't say.
I thought I had heard from the horse's mouth, she said. If people want to hear the story, let's get it right. She chronicled her family's experience in the book Alien Legacy, published in 2007, and the book The Kelly Green Men, Alien Legacy Revisited, published in 2015.
Kelly.
Oh no.
What are your thoughts on the Hopkinsville incident? Let us know in the comments below.
I don't know. Definitely want to go check that out because apparently that's where I get my fucking honey from. They come to the farmer's market here. Maybe I'm taking some alien honey. I'm alright with that. Quite alright. So, we're going to go into a little bit of history today. And we're going to go over the FISA courts. The history of the FISA courts. And then we're going to go into something a little older.
The Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, or FISA Court, was established by Congress in 1978 to oversee the government's foreign intelligence surveillance. The reason it was established is that in the 1970s, the Church Committee had documented widespread surveillance abuses by the intelligence community within the United States. The compromise that Congress struck was to permit the government to continue to target legitimate foreign intelligence targets, but to subject that surveillance to oversight to prevent further abuses. Today, 40 years later, the FISA court sits in a federal courthouse in Washington, D.C., where it continues to issue surveillance orders at the request of the government. It is secretive by nature because the government often presents the court with extremely sensitive details about the individuals it wants to target.
Now, here's the interesting thing. These courts allow for spying on Americans. And here's how they're going to get it, which it's kind of strange that a lot of people don't know this. When it comes to foreign intelligence, they monitor what's going out. What's going out of the United States because they're allowed to spy on us. Now, information coming in, we're not allowed to monitor, apparently. Little known fact.
Or the technologies it wants to rely on. As originally designed by Congress, the FISA court was meant to hear individualized surveillance requests by the government. The FISA statute allows the government to go to the court when it believes it has probable cause to believe that a particular individual is an agent of a foreign power. And if the court agrees with the government that that individual is in fact an agent of a foreign power, then the court will approve surveillance of that person for a set duration of time. Today, the court hears about 1,000 to 2,000 of those individualized surveillance requests every year, and it approves the overwhelming majority of them. In the court's 40-year history, it has disapproved of about 40 of those requests, although the government points out that in many of the requests that it submits to the FISA court, it engages with a back-and-forth process of adjusting the request to comply with the court's demands. The FISA court was originally designed to oversee individualized surveillance requests, and for the first 25 years of its operation, that's exactly what it did. But in the years after 9/11, the government asked the court, and the court agreed to oversee large scales of bulk collection of Americans' information. In 2006, for example, the government asked the FISA court to approve the bulk collection of Americans' call records. Under that program, the NSA would, on an ongoing daily basis, collect the call records of Americans from the major telecommunications providers in the country. In 2015, Congress legislated to end the domestic mass surveillance programs that started after 9/11. But there's one critical exception, and that's Section 702 of FISA. Section 702 forbids the government from targeting known Americans or others inside the United States. Instead, the statute requires that the government target foreigners abroad, and it must be targeting those individuals to collect what the statute calls foreign intelligence information. That phrase is defined very broadly to include not just information about terrorists, but information about the foreign affairs of the United States. The primary complaint of privacy advocates about Section
That's why I
702
went over what it's actually
is
doing.
that in collecting that information, the government will predictably collect the information of many Americans. The primary protection that Section 702 provides to Americans is that it requires the government to comply with what are
monitoring the communications going out. Of course, they're going to monitor whatever the other person is on the other end. But if it's coming in, sorry, bruh, can't do it.
Called minimization procedures. Those procedures are supposed to be designed to protect Americans' privacy when they're swept up in the surveillance. Once an American's communications are swept up under Section 702, they go into government databases, and there those communications can be searched for by the FBI, for example, in the course of criminal investigations. And so long as the government has an argument that accessing Americans' communications is necessary to understanding so-called foreign intelligence, the government can retain those communications.
I don't know how I feel about that. If I was on the jury, I'd be like, well, kind of, you got to check them out, though. That's going to be interesting. And once the court case is over, those people on the jury that did watch that, they're going to get interviewed and make a ton of fucking money. Unless there's a gag order, which eventually goes away.
And use them for many purposes. Critics of the court say that the mission of the court has crept over time to authorize increasingly broad surveillance that increasingly sweeps in the communications of Americans, all without any warrant. They also point out that much of the development of FISA court law happens behind closed doors, making effective oversight of the court difficult and making it difficult to assess whether the legal interpretations that the court is developing in secret are consistent with our laws. Proponents of the FISA court say that the court gives the government a secure forum in which to present sensitive information justifying important surveillance requests. They also say that the authorities that the FISA court oversees, like Section 702, give the government important surveillance authority in the context of its fight against international terrorism and other international threats.
What do y'all think? Big fan of the FISA courts? Absolutely not. It's one of those situations where you give up a little bit of personal freedom, just for the illusion of safety. Hang on. And I didn't really pay attention to FISA courts because I thought they were a new thing until recently. Because in my opinion, and that's just my opinion alone, this FISA court, they weren't called FISA before.
2001, the federal government had an almost immediate reflex action in order to prevent another such occurrence.
Hey, Corey, what's up, man?
This was not unusual, as throughout American history, laws have been passed that were ostensibly to provide security, but eventually became too intrusive and often labeled unconstitutional. The other side of the argument is that certain laws were required to increase national security and protect American citizens, and were therefore necessary depending upon the circumstances. We will discuss both arguments here. What is the Patriot Act? Why was it created? Why do some people support it while others condemn it? Has the Patriot Act been a positive or a negative law?
Negative.
Has it been effective? Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, military veteran, historian, author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
And here's where I think I was so blinded as a young adult. When this first happened, I'm not going to lie, I was actually kind of in support of the Patriot Act. Here's why. because I was so blinded by my patriotism, and being a young, semi-brainwashed kid at that point, because all I wanted to do was find out who did it and get rid of them. It was only until a couple years later I realized that was all a lie. And it's just a way to monitor us. Because our souls have been, not by our means, our lives have been sold out by our government to the Israelis. Because you know what? Ask them what they had to do with 9/11. Ask them about the 5 dancing... What's the name, Yeti? Those 5 fuckers that were dancing outside across the river. Dancing Israelis.
Today, we still live with the Patriot Act, although in a different version from when it first became law. It followed in the tradition of previous security measures, which became laws for better or worse. For example, the Alien and Sedition Acts were a series of 4 laws passed by the Federalist majority in Congress in 1798 under President John Adams due to fears of a war with France. There was also the concern of foreign spies in the country, so Adams signed it into law on July 14, 1798. It was set to expire on March 3, 1801, the last day of his term in office. Over time, these laws changed, but they still remain in effect restricting foreign nationals and limiting freedom of the press, especially regarding published information that caused discomfort to the president or other senior officials, which was and still is a serious First Amendment issue. One part of the law, the Naturalization Act, increased residency requirements for U.S. citizenship regarding foreigners from 5 years up to 14 years. This was done as a matter of preventing new immigrants from voting after becoming citizens because they favored the Democratic Republicans in their majority, so the Federalists wanted to exclude them from voting. Under the Alien Enemies Act, the government could arrest and deport all male citizens of an enemy nation in the event of war, while the Alien Friends Act...
Why would I specifically want to play this, other than this is what Trump is using?
...allowed the president to deport any non-citizen suspected of plotting against the government, even in peacetime. However, the most important law was the Sedition Act, which targeted anyone who spoke against the president or the Federalist-dominated government under Adams at that.
I just figured out who Corey is, because only one person put the ones in the air like that. Only one person.
Time. Essentially, the law made it a crime to state or publish any false, scandalous, and malicious writing against Congress or the president, and made it illegal to conspire to oppose any measure or measures of the government. Of course, the government decided what was false and what was scandalous, much like the Biden administration today with their censorship. James Madison and Thomas Jefferson were both critics, and they argued that the government had no legal authority to enact laws not specified in the Constitution.
That's funny.
Jefferson wrote, "The several states who formed that instrument, the Constitution, being sovereign and independent,
Dude, if that's an
have
apple,
an
that's
unquestionable
gross.
right to judge of its infraction, and that a nullification by those states of all unauthorized acts is the rightful remedy." By 1802, the laws were repealed or expired, except for the Alien Enemies Act, which is still law today, and in 1918, Congress amended that law to include women. The Alien Enemies Act was invoked by Franklin Roosevelt during World War II to incarcerate Japanese Americans into internment camps. The Patriot Act would be the successor of these earlier laws. Prior to the 9/11 attack...
The what? They say Patriot Act?
Congress focused on legislation to prevent international...
Look at that piece of shit right there. I used to have so much respect for this guy when I was a brainwashed kid. And then I opened up my eyes. And it was funny because it was in 2004 that it happened.
National terrorism. But after the February 26, 1993 World Trade Center bombing and the April 1995 Oklahoma City bombing, domestic terrorism gained more attention. As a result of these events, on April 24, 1996, President Bill Clinton signed the Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act of 1996 to assist law enforcement in identifying and prosecuting domestic and international terrorists. But Clinton asked Congress to give law enforcement expanded wiretap authority and increase access to the records of citizens in terrorism cases. Congress refused, mainly because many felt loosening surveillance and records rules was unconstitutional. After 9/11, congressional leaders, worried about their re-election, approached U.S. Attorney General John Ashcroft to push for a stronger law. Therefore, the Department of Justice proposed a new law that expanded the application of investigative tools already being used against drug dealers and organized crime. The Patriot Act was proposed and passed in Congress with bipartisan support and signed into law by President George W. Bush.
It's funny that it was bipartisan. Everybody was blinded. Everybody. To see what was happening, what was coming.
On October 26, 2001, just weeks after the September 11 terrorist attacks against the United States, and it is more than...
by the way, this dude's really biased. He can't stand George Bush.
300 pages long. Officially called the Uniting and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism, the Patriot Act was intended to improve the abilities of U.S. law enforcement to detect and deter terrorism. The act was intended to improve homeland security by allowing law enforcement to use surveillance and wiretapping to investigate terror-related crimes. Also, to allow federal agents to request court permission to use roving wiretaps to track a specific terrorist suspect, and also allow for delayed notification search warrants to prevent a terrorist suspect from learning they were a target of an investigation. It also allowed federal agents to seek federal court permissions to obtain bank and business records to aid investigations and prevent money laundering for terrorism financing.
So they were checking everyone's
It was
bank
also
account.
meant to improve information and intelligence sharing methods and cooperation between government agencies. It also increased tougher penalties for convicted terrorists and those who assisted them, and allowed search warrants to be obtained in any district or in any state where terror-related activity occurred, no matter where the warrant was executed or in which jurisdiction the so-called activity took place. It also ended the statute of limitations for certain terror-related crimes, essentially making all situations a federal responsibility instead of a state issue. Greater restrictions on aliens involved or even suspected of terrorist activities to enter the United States was invoked. It also provided aid to victims of terrorism and public safety officers involved or injured while investigating or preventing terrorism or responding to terrorist attacks. In 2004, during his testimony before the United States Senate Committee on the Judiciary, FBI Director Robert Mueller said, "The Patriot Act has proved extraordinarily beneficial in the war on terrorism and has changed the way the FBI does business. Many of our counterterrorism successes, in fact, are the direct results of provisions included in the Act." Mueller also stated that without the provisions in the Act, the FBI could be forced back into pre-September 11 practices attempting to fight the war on terrorism with one hand tied behind our backs. Many of the Patriot Act's requirements were to expire in 2005, and renewing the law was passionately argued in the U.S. House of Representatives and the Senate. Although there were legitimate constitutional civil liberties and privacy concerns, President Bush signed the USA Patriot and Terrorism Reauthorization Act on March 9, 2006. Although the Patriot Act was revised in 2015 to the constitutional rights of ordinary Americans, some provisions of the law remain controversial. One of those controversies is whether or not it was effective. One example was, under the previously existing wiretap laws, If a suspected criminal was under legal wiretap and his conversations recorded, the agents listening in had to turn off the recording if the conversation was with a party not under investigation. Such as, for example, if mob boss John Gotti was calling to order a pizza, the person on the other end could not be recorded to protect their privacy. Under the new law, the entire conversation could be recorded to assist in the investigation. It was also argued that a situation such as this also placed the innocent party into the investigation without their knowledge, which could also have them wiretapped and surveilled even though they were not conducting any criminal activity. A Washington Post article from 2015 stated that the Justice Department admitted FBI agents can't point to any major terrorism cases they've cracked, thanks to the key snooping powers in the Patriot Act. However, another 2012 report from the Heritage Foundation stated that 50 terrorist attacks have been thwarted since 9/11, with 47 being the direct result of the work of law enforcement and intelligence agencies. This argument claimed that the Patriot Act was critical in helping law enforcement identify leads, surveil and wiretap suspects, examine records, and prevent attacks. In fact, there have been many cases of law enforcement and intelligence agencies preventing attacks. The most vehement criticism of the Patriot Act by civil rights groups claim that it violates Americans' constitutional rights, allowing the government to spy on them without due process, search their homes without consent, and increase the risk of ordinary citizens being accused of crimes without just cause. The federal government asserts the Patriot Act has safeguards to protect the rights of American citizens, which is questionable, as some parts of the law were found illegal by the various courts. For example, in 2015, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit found Section 215 of the Patriot Act could not be used to validate the bulk collection of Americans' phone records. President Barack Obama signed the USA Freedom Act into law on June 2, 2015, in order to help prevent the Patriot Act from infringing on American civil liberties. This terminated the bulk collection of all records under Section 215 of the Patriot Act and allowed challenges to national security letter gag orders. It also required better transparency and more information sharing between the United States Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, better known as FISA, and the American people. The revision under Obama allows the government to track suspected foreign terrorists for 72 hours after they enter the United States and increases required maximum penalties for anyone providing support to specific foreign terrorist organizations. It also allows limited use of bulk data collection under Section 215 in an emergency, but critics believe it doesn't go far enough.
You know, when you think about this, and a story I went over Monday, which was yesterday, about the airports trying to use everything biometric. You know, biometrically, they can get everything and anything they want.
The benefits of the Patriot Act and the USA Freedom Act regarding national security will continue to be debated against the potential intrusion on Americans' privacy and their civil rights. Yet, supporters of the Patriot Act may have a case, and here's why. On May 1, 2010, a terrorist attack was attempted in Times Square in Manhattan, New York. 2 street vendors alerted NYPD after they spotted smoke coming from a vehicle, and a car bomb was discovered. The bomb had been ignited but failed to explode and was disarmed before it caused any casualties. Federal agents then arrested Faisal Shahzad, a 30-year-old Pakistan-born resident of Bridgeport, Connecticut, who obtained U.S. citizenship in April 2009. He was already a target of investigation and was arrested after he had boarded Emirates Flight 202 to Dubai at John F. Kennedy International Airport. After his arrest, he admitted to the attempted car bombing and that he had trained at a Pakistani terrorist training camp. Many suspected and even known terrorists have been apprehended either attempting to enter the country or already being here due to the intelligence gathered, afforded by the Patriot Act and the FISA Court. Still, the critics also have a valid concern that even the innocent can be drawn into the investigations, often arrested, even charged. Another detractor to the federal government having too much power. such as the abuse of the FISA court by FBI Director James Comey and others in the Justice Department when they submitted fraudulent and falsified evidence to spy on U.S. citizens, not just foreigners, and therefore committing perjury on their sworn affidavits targeting Republican political officials. So in conclusion, the Patriot Act still exists, although a shadow of its former self. But we still have to be wary of government abuses, as are highly illustrated in the lawfare used against Donald Trump and other Republicans by the Democrat-run Justice.
Donald Trump was supposed to end the Patriot Act back in his first term, which he did initially in 2016, but secretly it was introduced back in 2019, 2020. A lot of people don't know about that one. But yeah, it was a secret they inserted. And then there in the big omnibus bill, they pretty much allowed more power to the FISA court. And that happened in the first omnibus. And then right in their last year, they were trying to do the same thing. And I think it passed as well. Or maybe it didn't, because they were trying to cut down the bills to where there was less bullshit and singular vote bills, which I still don't think they're doing in Congress, which they need to. But that's, besides the point. They're congressmen, they're college, they're the ones that's supposed to make the decisions. I'm just a voter that, put them there. So we're going to go over quite a few things today, like we normally do. Hope you learned something. If you did, great. If you didn't, then it's more of a refresher. And other than that, I'm really hungry now, and I'm going to go get something to eat. But first, I'm not telling you how to think, because that's just fucking retarded. Maybe I should, because those influencers get tons of money. Then again, if TikTok goes to China and goes away, then I have no money. Yeah, whatever. I'm just telling you to think.